Good evening, all. This is the Environmental Protection Committee for Manhattan City Board One. It's September 18th. I'm Alice Blank, Chair of the committee. I'm here with Wendy Chapman, co-chair, and our new district manager, chair, Tammy Nelson. Thanks for those of you who braved this really foul weather to get here. We are going to move things along as quickly as we can. And so I am going to start. I'm going to start, and we forgive us, but we are going to change the order of the first two items on the agenda. So we're going to start with the Battery Park City Reaches potential resolution and discussion, because we are very pleased to have Nicholas Bordone, head of communications for the authority, to come and update us all, which is really lovely. At the last one, he didn't make it, be it remotely. I think, yes, there he is. Hi, Nick. So that is the first item. And what's happening here is that the authority would very much like that the community responds to the current plans, albeit 30% design, by the end of this month. And in order to do that, we would have to, in this committee, provide a resolution that would be looked at by the whole board next week. So we have to cobble something together that would be helpful to the authority in moving forward to the next phase. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Nicholas Bordone. Welcome. Another drenched member has arrived.
Hey there, Alice and all. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. And thanks for having me. Last time we saw you all, notwithstanding kind of individual engagements, was at the EPC committee, I guess in July, the last time you all convened. And what we wanted to do tonight, and I had some conversations with Tammy and Justine and Alice and others, is kind of get back to you all with kind of in broad strokes, kind of the timeline for public engagement coming up for the Northwest Battery Park City Resiliency Project. So I will start with a very brief recap, picking up where Alice left off, and then I can kind of run you through some of what we're thinking for dates, and I can also use, if it's all right with you all, some input about the community's thoughts on some of the dates as we try and plan this out. You'll understand a little bit more of what I'm getting at as I get to it. So we had last presented on June 26th. We had a very, and thank you for this, very full turnout at a set of meetings for the Northwest Battery Park City Resiliency Project at Stuyvesant High School. There were two meetings. They were back to back. It was the same meeting twice. It was an opportunity for people to go either at the earlier time or the later time. Both those meetings were, I guess you can say, simulcast online for people to participate remotely. And then what we also did at that time, which still remains open, was put an online tool up that had that same presentation and videos for people to watch of that night, to be able to go in and make comments on the particular aspects of the plan that at that point were at roughly the 30% design mark. Now, as those of you who have been following the project along for some time know, there are 7 different reaches or portions of the project, given its length and kind of complexity. Certain portions of that project were not exactly at 30% because there are still some questions that we are working through with the range of project stakeholders about what form and shape that's going to take. But in the main, the project was roughly 30% in most places. And what we wanted to do was make sure we had both the opportunity for folks to provide feedback in person and online. And then over the course of these past months, continue to provide feedback by the online tool. What we had said in July when we came to the EPC committee was that we would back to you all in the next little bit with kind of the next steps in terms of public engagement. And what I'd like to do this evening now then is just speak through that briefly. So one of the things that Alice had requested, and we actually had the same idea because we thought and had experienced in the past that these had great effect for the community really being able to get their eyes on the physical aspects of the project, were kind of walking tours or walking kind of excursions over the project's course, to really get eyes on what some of the challenges we are facing as we design the project are, and to get feedback on what the public thinks about different things that are being contemplated at various points of the project's work. So I will, one of the two main goals for this week to get delivered out, one of those goals is to get these walking tour dates finalized with the community board and then get them socialized and promoted. And we would like to do that with about a month's notice, so we have plenty of time to get the word out, both digitally, physically, in the local papers, by our friends at the community board, and then their newsletter, which I read religiously. I know when it comes in, our newsletters, our social media channels, etc. And roughly what we are thinking is similar to what we had done in the past with walking tours. There are seven reaches of the project, and it's too much to do, I think, in one weekday because there's a lot there and we don't want to give any one particular portion short shrift. So roughly what we are thinking is we would do 2 weekdays. One of each weekday would have a portion of the reaches, the other weekday would have the second portion of the reaches, and then one full weekend day that would be a larger engagement for folks who either wanted to do it again or who are not able to attend one of the two or both sessions. So roughly speaking, and Alice, I know we had discussed potentially October 16th, but we're actually going to be, I think, try to be back to you all at APC next month. I don't know that we can do that and the walking tour the same day. All of this is to say, we are kicking around basically October 17th and October 24th. That's 2 consecutive Tuesdays. Now, again, I'm not saying this is set. I'm saying I'm just throwing this out there to the community board. So either October 17th and October 24th, which are 2 consecutive Tuesdays, or October 19th and October 26th, which are 2 consecutive Thursdays. That would start like around 3 p.m., would give us about 3 hours or so before the sun goes down, and leading into potentially whatever the community board meeting is that night. We wouldn't want to schedule it opposite that. We'd want to make sure that one can flow into the other so people don't have to make the choice. And then we would have Saturday, October 21st as a full-on all reaches day. So we would probably start around mid-morning, do the first 3 reaches or so, take maybe a half-hour break for people to, use the facilities, get a bite, and come back and finish the rest of the tour. So that is the idea for the walking tours. And I put that first in what I'm presenting tonight only because if we can get those calendared this week, like I said, that gives us about a month to promote them and make sure that we get as full and deep penetration out and get as much attendance as we could at the tours. Okay, well, Nick, that all sounds great. What do you want to do at these walking tours? The idea here would be not totally dissimilar from what we've done in the past, but the idea would be like, hey, here's where we are with the project. For folks who have been following along the whole way, there may not be a ton new, but some folks are just getting involved. Broadly speaking, what we would like to achieve would be to walk with the group physically across the length and breadth of the project site, kind of describe what the alignment is currently that we're looking at in the designs, what the design approach is for each particular project reach, what the intervention or interventions would look like for that particular reach, what the height of the intervention would be, what the associated features would be. Not the materiality yet at this point, because again, we're not yet to that point of the design, but things along those lines. And then some of the challenges and visual impacts that we know that we're going to experience as we go ahead and progress with the design, and get folks' feedback on that. But as Alice, I think, very adeptly points out, there's the difference between seeing it on a screen at a presentation and walking through and actually seeing the terrain in a physical sense and understanding some of the challenges and some of the opportunities, frankly. So that's the thinking for the walking tours. We don't have to take a ton of time now in the committee debating dates. I just wanted to throw that out there in terms of roughly what we were thinking. But I hope that that makes sense in terms of like 2 weeknights, because you can't do all the reaches after a work day and after school and before an evening meeting. And then 1 weekday where you would be able to do a longer engagement because I'm sorry, one weekend day, where you'd be able to do the full range of the reaches for people who either want to do it for the first time or want a second bite at going on the tour, who may have attended one or both of the weeknights. Alice, is that okay?
Absolutely. I think we've gotten the idea that we're going to have tours, and I see one question. So maybe we'll just stop here for the tour section.
Sure.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Number one, I think these walking tours are a great idea for many reasons, including what you just said, is in terms of understanding the dimensions of the intervention. It's no substitute to see in person compared to looking at renderings and so forth. But I just want clarification on the weekdays. I want to make sure that I wrote down the alternatives correctly.
Yep.
Tuesdays would be 10:17 and 10:24. Is that correct?
That's right.
For the Thursdays, it would be 10:19 and 10:26.
Yes.
And a moment ago, I think we had a slip of the tongue, but I think you said something evening for these weekdays would be during the day, right?
I think what we would try to do is that let's start like 3 o'clock.
Okay, fine. I just want to make sure it's the daylight.
Yeah. The idea there is if folks have, kids in school or whatever else, want to be able to finish the school day and have them be able to join it, but not so late that A, it gets dark, or B, it's running into a CB1 meeting or another meeting that people have to go to at 6. So idea like 3 to 6 or 3 to 5:30 or something like that.
Okay.
2.5, 3 hours should give us enough time to go through a portion of the reaches, and then the remaining portion would be on the second weekday.
And if everybody can make every day, that's great. We should do a preliminary,
Either of the weekday sets would work for me.
I would say, I think we should do is Tuesday better, is Thursday better, or
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Okay, well, so Nick, do us a favor, if you would, when you know what the actual, or unless these are the choices, if it's the 17th, the 24th, the 19th, and the 27th, whatever, please send it so that we can then be
Yep.
sure to. I know that Wendy, Jeff, and I all responded to your email yesterday about it, so.
Yep.
Of course, this.
Thank you,
really-
and thank you for that. That's one of the big priorities for this week is I want to try and have those dates locked down so we can get about a month's notice, at least. Go ahead.
Right, so could you just give me the one sentence answer as to who will be at this presentation going forward at these walkthroughs?
Oh, it'll be the project team, the architects and engineers that you have come to know from the presentations as well. I mean, I'll be there. Obviously, no one wants to hear from me more than they have to. But the engineers and the architects will be there.
Invaluable. It's a fantastic exercise. We thank. In light of three-dimensional review of something, are there any models of the project yet that can be reviewed as we had done for Wagner Park?
I know I've noted the request. I don't have physical models yet, but I know that that's out there, and we will have them eventually. We don't have them yet.
And then could you talk a little bit about how we assess, so you're asking the board to, and the public generally to comment by September 30th, which was kind of what we were going to tackle a little bit tonight.
Yep.
But you have this late October walkthrough, which of course will be very informative, and I would imagine you would like comments from that. So where did those comments get placed, and how does that relate to the September 30th deadline?
So it's a really good question, and that leads me actually to my next point, or hopefully it does. It makes sense to folks. I'll begin by saying I wouldn't deign to tell the community board what to pass or what not to pass, but if it helps in terms of maybe easing the pressure, it's not like September 30th is, that's it, that's the last time to issue comments. So what we wanted to do with the online tool was keep it open through September 30th, but at any point over the course of the last, 2.5 months, including now as we speak, anybody can go on and give their input on the stages of the design as it was in late June. What we want to do in October and then going forward in November, which I'll get to, is the next kind of public engagement. So Alice, and you and I had talked about tonight, which is kind of the broad brushstrokes of the next public touch points. October, I believe, is your next meeting on October 16th, which is the Monday. And what we think we would like to do then is, as we kind of get our arms around not only some of the questions that have come in, but questions that we know that have continued to come up that we have answers to, we'd like to start the conversation similar to what we did with the South Battery Park City Resiliency Project with respect to drainage. So interior drainage is a big consideration. It's a big portion of the project. We had talked and spent a good deal about time on that on the South project. As with the South Battery Park City Resiliency Project, interior drainage aspect of the Northwest project is a bit of a lagging element, and it's not anything bad. It's just because there are conversations and deliberations that we need to work with other stakeholders on, specifically, but not only, the Department of Environmental Protection as the city's water czar. And we've gotten some questions about interior drainage, both over the course of our conversations with the community board and others. And similar to the South project, we envision that the Northwest project can utilize what we call a near surface isolation system. But due to the sheer volume of the water that is projected to be needed to be kind of dispelled in the case of a climate event, it looks as though there may be some pumping capability required for interior drainage. So it's, I think, the right time to start having these conversations with the community and get your feedback on what we know so far, and input that would be helpful as we proceed with that design.
Nick,
Hey, Jeff.
okay, I'll have a question.
There's a lot of talk here, but there's some really helpful, some real precision material here. If you have on your website, which is fabulous, and I really encourage everyone, and I know I sent everyone the links to all of the different documents there. You state very clearly that the public comment period on the reaches is over on September 30th. So again, it is unclear to me what's happening with your design team between September 30th and October 30th or 28th, when the board will, again, the full board will meet again. In terms of the design, in other words, what public comment is done at the end of this month, and we won't have seen anything new. And nor will you have come to the community board to present. So I'm just unclear what then is going to happen at the October 30th deadline, or date rather.
October 30th?
Like, what happens in October and November? In other words, where is the information that people will have
Yeah.
done the walkthrough? Where does the response to that information and the subsequent reviews that you're talking about, interior drainage and the like, where the community may very well want to opine on this?
Yep.
To your work here, when will that be taken into consideration, and where would that be posted, and at what point in the design will you be? In other words, if it's 30% September 30th, is it 60% on November 30th? Can you give us a sense?
Yes. Yes, I can. No, it's not 60%. So what is happening between what has been going on since June 26th and the end of September is literally comments on what people saw in June. What we did was we just wanted to make sure that we extended it for people who might not have been able to make the meeting. Maybe they left town early for the summer or were not able to attend for whatever reason. So we simply, instead of just having a single night for feedback, we had kind of a 3-month window for feedback. Anything new that we come back and present to the community will have the full opportunity for folks to comment on after they see it. So for instance, talked about coming in October for drainage. And then in November, we think will make sense is to be able to have the next meeting similar to what we did in June. So we had a big meeting in June We're still taking feedback on anything that people saw in June. In November, we think we will be able to have the next public touch point where we have kind of like, hey, everyone who came in June and submitted comments, thank you. Here's what we've gotten. And as a result of what you have told us, here is the latest iteration of the designs. It's not going to be at 60%. It will be essentially a like post 30% design update. So like, hey, thanks for what you told us. At that point in June, when we had the updates to the reaches, a lot of them were at 30%. Some of them weren't quite at the 30% mark due to the vagaries of different jurisdictions and questions that we still have answered. So here now is the full update as we have it in November of 2023. And then you will have the opportunity again to give any updates and feedback on what you see there through the end of the year.
I thought I said that's a rule.
We could also
Nick,
up,
can you hear, okay, so I'm letting Tammy ask a question here, Nick, sorry to kind of, throw these at you, but.
No, it's okay.
Because we're gonna put it in a resolution, and I just wanna make sure I've understood that in October, one of the 4 dates you've given us, you'll be doing tours, in October, you'll be coming back to give us, the answers to all of the outstanding questions that we've asked.
I didn't hear that.
Well, I'm asking that.
Can I,
Yeah.
can I ask you for, Nick, it's a real simple question. You're gonna do the walkthrough. The walkthroughs are critical for the understanding of what's going on. Glenn had said that substantial design changes would not be made beyond 30%. So my question is very simple. I would like to hear from the Battery Park City Authority that the closing of the 30% design comment period with all questions is done after the walkthroughs. So potentially any of the feedback that you get could be incorporated before you move to 60. Because Glenn said at the meeting that substantial design changes would not change beyond once you get to that phase. That's one. Two, we had so many amazing presentations by the Battery Park City Authority about different alignments for Wagner and the Battery, different presentations on lawns and gardens and all kinds of things at Community Board 1 for several years. I looked through everything. You have been doing large, giant presentation meetings, and they have been well attended. But the community board, in the business of the board, has not gotten a presentation on the reaches themselves, which is what we asked for in the spring to be done in the fall, broken up in between any way that you, and you meaning the Battery Park City Authority, could do it, whether it was in the Battery Park City Committee, Environmental Protection, wherever you could do it. But in 2023, we have not had a presentation on the reaches at a Community Board 1 meeting. And I keep asking, I am very concerned that a project that is so big, so important, and so vital has 62 public comments as of today on the website.
I'm concerned as well. That's why we kept it open.
That's why we asked in the spring, I am asking again. We opened our calendar to you. We ask that you please not close the comment period. You please take the time, and we would like the individual reach presentations. There is also no understanding that I have, and I think I've been to almost every one of these meetings, that the public comment period that you are talking about closes entirely for 30% for reaches 1 through 7, even though we know reaches 1, 2, and 5 have engineering and other items that will necessitate major change.
No, you're misstating it, Tammy. You're misstating it. Like I said, there were reaches, as I said earlier, in June that were not quite at the 30% mark, but we presented in June what each reach was at that point. So
I see, okay.
we're going to do, go ahead.
There you go. Nick, we have limited time.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna ask if you could just answer the following question. Will you be able to hold the comment period until October 30th, when everyone, or after everyone has gone on the tours? Would that be something that you could do?
I don't know. I can check.
Okay, so that's one question we need answered. And would you be able to hold the comment period, and it might make the most sense, until after you have provided answers to all the questions that were provided in the June meeting you're referring to? Could we have that, because we haven't received those full answers, so is that something that you can also get back to us? Because we've asked this a number of times, and we definitely need to know yes or no. My sense was it was no, but I'm hoping you're open to maybe allowing another month, so that these pesky items that seem to be outstanding, like walking through the site and actually having the questions that were originally asked in June be answered, seems very helpful to you, I would think.
Yeah,
I would hope-
no, I agree. So I started this evening talking about, I wanted to try and break it out into like what we wanted to accomplish this week, what we wanted to accomplish in October and November, and then going forward. The first thing I said was I wanted to try to lock down the dates for the walking tours, which I think we're maybe close on. The second thing that we want to get to you this week are the questions that are outstanding from the June meeting, which were about 130 or so questions, some of which are quite detailed. So what we want to do is get those posted up on the site with all the rest of the questions and documentation from the project. And if it's helpful when we are back to you in October, if that's something that makes sense to you, we've offered to do it. If there were questions about those questions, then we'll have the team there to answer it when we're also going to try to have the conversation about drainage. So we want to have the questions to you this week with time for you guys to circulate them and then answer questions about those in October.
Okay, okay, let me get a couple of more questions, Nick. Sarah?
Is there going to be at some point a physical model that people can
Possible.
see, that engineers will be able to evaluate?
Yes, there will be a model. We don't have it yet because we are only at 30% design.
Okay, at what point? At 50%, at 70%? What point?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but I can
Can you
have
ask?
that question answered for you when we are next to you. It's not going to be in October, I can tell you that, but we'll have it.
But will it be in January or June?
I don't know. I can follow up for you. Sam.
Yes.
Just again, for the benefit of the committee, for folks who may not be familiar or joining us for the first time, we're sitting here in September 2023. Project, the start of construction roughly is probably this time in 2025. So we're a couple of years out from starting work. Not that means I have a model I'm not going to show you. I'm saying when we have a model, we will give it to you. We don't have it yet.
Okay, are there any other questions of committee members? While we have Nick with us, I mean, we are going to open this up for discussion in terms of a resolution that memorializes some of what's being said tonight, Nick. So is there anything else you want to let us know that we can put in the resolution that, you know, would be helpful? It
I
sounds
mean,
like,
those were the main points. It was so the walking tour dates and being back to EPC in October to kind of have the drainage conversation to the extent that we have the information, and then also if there are follow-ons to the questions from June, which we're going to get published to the site.
so,
And then in November, we would look to have that follow-up to the June meeting where we kind of brought everything back together and had like a post 30% design update discussion, which is
like I have, Alice, you did.
past
say-
that, but not 60. So those are the three main touch points I wanted to make sure.
Here,
Okay.
and here.
The interior drainage, 1. 2, the answers to the outstanding questions that were provided by the board to you or by the community on June 26th. I'm sorry, I missed 3.
Those will be this week, you said.
You said 130 questions.
I thought that was October.
No, and then we can ask questions about the answers
Right,
in
so
October.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's get down by-
All right.
We have
Is
more
that,
questions.
that's the understanding. Thank you, Jeff. This will go into the document that we're going to back to write. Okay.
And there's no full design. The only presentations in October are questions and drainage, right? There's no full design.
One more question,
That's correct.
2 more questions.
Yeah.
Ushma.
Ushma.
Hi.
I had never, yeah, that's
See
from
me
the
in
Myers
person.
I hear. Let's say that is Ushma. Welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to know from all of the work they've done to date, have they made any changes that we should be aware of, or like, are they thinking of things that they might change? I find like they're just keep rolling, but I don't really know if anything is being incorporated. So I would just like to know
Great question.
that.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, look, the team is working all the time. You know, I want to try to challenge Jeff Galloway here a little bit, not because I'm trying to embarrass him, but because he has a very effective way of kind of parsing these things out. Yeah, so part of the idea is we get comments, and we've been getting comments since June about all the things that people see. The team is working to incorporate those things, certainly. And then what we want to do is, as we've done in the past, be back to the community to discuss like, hey, here's everything we've heard. Here's what we heard. Here's how it's been able to be implemented. What are your thoughts now on this latest iteration? And then we go through the process again and again. But at some point, we have to be able to say, okay, all the comments are now done because we need to be able to work on those comments. If we are consistently taking comments, then we get to the point where we can't actually do anything because we're still taking comments on the stuff that we wanted to try to work on, to be back to you with updates to show you that we've incorporated what you've told us. So it can easily very kind of roll up on itself. We want to make sure that as we take this every step of the way, here's what you told us, here's what we've heard, here's how it's been implemented. Here is the presentation. What are your comments now on this latest iteration of the presentation? What are your questions? What are your comments? What are your concerns?
So has anything, I mean, just generally high level, meta themes, anything been changed?
You're definitely gonna see when we're on the walking tour. I mean, that's what, there's gonna be, we'll talk about that.
Let him
Since you're fairly new to
Why-
it,
Let him answer it. Why are you answering for that?
well, I mean, he said that. He said that they're gonna go around with heights and not materials. That's what he just said to us. I'm not,
But so people on the Nick, explain, people on the walking tour will be shown what was originally presented from the June meeting and what is different now in October.
I haven't planned out the walking tours, Tammy. I'm just trying to get the date scheduled. Okay? And what we are going to do on the walking tours, or walk through and kind of update folks on where we are on the project based on what we have heard to date.
Okay, I guess my
Yeah.
general request would be, folks are giving a lot of feedback. I know we're always going around and telling people, read this stuff and put on that
Yep.
stuff board. If we can at some point understand what was and was not accepted, what did and didn't change, probably helps with the process.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
So
no, it's a great point. If it's helpful to you all and for folks who may be joining us for the first time, if you go back to some of the old presentations, not that I'm making more work for you, but in past presentations, you'll see like very specifically titled slides, what we heard, what we did. So it's like, here's what we've heard and here's what has been incorporated as a result.
Yeah.
And that would be the same kind of thinking.
An addendum, if the committee agrees to the resolution, are the summary that was given to us by one of our public members, or actually, she's not yet a public member, anyway, a very generous person in the community who went through all of the presentations and summarized all the questions for each reach. So, I mean, and it's verbatim from the text, so it's something that's, not thought through. In any case, I think it'll be a helpful summary so we can keep track of all the questions that have not yet been answered, of which there were many, and I assume you're aware of that. So we will provide that to you as well as what you've got from your website.
Okay.
Wendy.
so, Nick, I was just gonna ask, I put it in the email, but I just wanna say it so it's on record for this meeting, that at the walking tour, that, I would request that we have a very loud bullhorn or microphone, louder than you think, because it's very hard to hear on the, with the wind and, when you're out in the open, and I'm getting old and it's hard to hear.
Absolutely.
So that's the first thing. I also would request, and I think you've done in the past, that it is videotaped. So that, and I know you've done that in the past, because one of the things that I keep saying is that we are the lucky people in that we are working on resiliency projects that the whole world is going to be working on for decades to come. And there are lessons learned, and one of those lessons learned is public engagement. And I think that's going to be one of the trickiest things. We've heard from our friends who have been working on the East Side projects, that the public engagement piece, and, people don't hear, or rumors happen, or, these types of things, that clear communication is a big thing. So I hope it's videotaped. And then my request again, and I don't know how to do it, and I'm not this person, but I would like for there to be short videos that then go out to the public from some of this in terms of what's going on in the neighborhood, so that the neighborhood knows that people are thinking about this and working on this, and that they too can join our fun effort to take on the challenges of New York City resiliency. And, for those of you guys, the whole paper this weekend was filled with things like, this is the chief science, or the chief city's climate chief. What keeps him up at night?
Mm.
Resiliency. Certainly the storm that hit Canada, one person died. We know about people who died. And then in the international section, feeling the climate doom, it's called climate anxiety, eco anxiety. So I feel like there are many of us that are reading about this, and we're wondering what's happening, what is our city doing, how are we responding? And I just think, Nick, if you could, you are putting stuff on the website, and that's wonderful, but I actually, again, the younger generation doesn't read any of this stuff. I have no idea what social media is. I don't do it myself, but we have young people in the room who maybe do. I would just ask us to figure out a way to put short videos out from that to say that we're doing things.
All right, other terrific points, so we will include. Other questions, comments for Nick or for the committee generally? Anybody else here or anybody online? Okay, I don't want to belabor this because we do, there's a kid sitting by this, but, Harry, hi, welcome. Thanks so much for coming. Harry Parker Davidson.
Thanks, happy to be here. If we could just, when you do the walking tours, the timing of 3 to 6, and I did the fly through, I, went and saw the fly through presentation. There are no bicycles in your fly through, or maybe there was one stationary bicycle. But just to think through what those pinch points are when you do the walkthrough, and try and point out that in the morning when there's high exercise and bicycle traffic, what that might look like, or how it will be different than that 3 to 6 time period. I just feel like the uses around that time are very different. So maybe a walkthrough in the morning, and how you're thinking about how the area flows at that time of day might look very different on a walkthrough.
It's very thoughtful, Carrie. Thank you. I don't want to commit to doing something in the morning, but the point about the bicycles is a very good one. And we'll make sure that we leverage any information we can about usage during that time. But I will relay that to the team. It's a really good suggestion. And you're right.
Yeah, just to have the data.
Spaces differently
It's just
at different times.
it's a data point, right? So just knowing what the different usage volume is during morning commute versus afternoon. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Carrie.
I actually have a follow-up question to Carrie's point. I know, Nick, there were vehicular traffic studies being done along South End Avenue and so forth. I saw the things, the equipment out there and so forth. Are there going to be, and if not, there should be, pedestrian and bicycle circulation studies
And
for
e-scooters and e-bicycles.
all means of transportation on the Esplanade. And as you know, Nick, you work down here, it varies pretty drastically from time of year
Great suggestion, Jeff. Thank you. My guess is, and again, don't want to speak out of school. My guess is, in addition to whatever else we contemplate as part of the EIS, that would probably be contemplated as well, pedestrian and other types of vehicular flows. But I have it written down here and will relate to the team.
Yeah, and I mean, to some extent, EISs are check the box kind of analyses. This really goes to the heart of the design process, and not something that you mitigate after you've figured out what the design is, but really should be an input into the design.
Okay.
Sarah,
It's not really, our purview, but signage in Battery Park City, multilingual signage regarding e-bikes and e-scooters is not around, and it needs to be.
one,
On the Esplanade and on the roads.
Okay.
anybody else?
I got it.
While Jeff brought up EIS, I remember that the deadline was somewhere, the suggested deadline was somewhere in May, in 2024, beginning 2024. Anyway, when is the final EIS expected?
I'm sorry, Alice, you cut out there for a second. Can you repeat?
EIS, when is the final?
The FEIS.
Okay. So the exact timeline, as I sit here today, is still to be determined, but we're talking kind of in broad strokes. So you should expect to see the draft environmental impact statement published in the early part of next year. So early part of 2024 will be the EIS. And then, of course, part and parcel of that is an accompanying public comment period, and then a public hearing as required by both the New York City and state environmental quality review processes. This, of course, follows the EIS draft scoping document, which you may recall we did last fall. And that and its accompanying documentation is on the dedicated project website. So early next year for the draft EIS, and then the final would follow that. But timeline, precise date still TBD. And when we are back to you in October or November, we may have more in terms of more precise dates.
Okay, we have one more. I just want to make sure I'm clear because we're going to have to write this resolution. October, the interior drainage, what's not clear to me, and it's clear to Jeff, but so the questions that were asked in June, they will all be answered by the end of this week?
My goal for the week is to have, other than getting the dates for the walkthrough lockdown, is to have that document completed and up on the website for you all to review, which is the questions that came in from the June meeting.
Which were the questions?
Yeah, which are the questions from June. And then presumably from that point, then you guys would take it and circulate it and say, hey, here's what BPCA has for answers. What are your questions about the answers?
Okay, excellent. All right, I think I'm up to date. All right, so Sarah, last question.
Okay, and I'm sorry, it's also an ancillary question. There was a very interesting comment in the broadsheet about the weight of the water as it comes in from a storm, from climate change, etc. And I'm wondering if the models, when they are shown, will reflect that, because that's of major concern. I'm confused that it hasn't been brought up sooner.
Yeah, I saw the question from the broadsheet last week. Richard Jaffe, I think it was, if memory serves.
Yeah.
I started reading it and I said, oh my God, he sent an email in and it didn't get answered. And then I was very excited to see him say, no, it actually got answered. And I think he maybe didn't love the answer or didn't feel like it was super responsive. Not being an engineer, I can say to you with confidence, this person who's decidedly a layperson, that the engineering that is being done by firms who are world-class and who in fact build solutions like this all across the world. So I'm confident it'll be addressed. Detailed, specific engineering questions should be directed to the engineers when we have them, and they will be here. Again, if it works out with the time and with Alice, which I assume it will, they'll be here in October to talk about drainage and among other things. If you have a question at that time as well, ask it.
One of the other critical, we'll discuss this in committee. You're welcome, obviously, to stay on, but I don't want to put you on the hot seat, but
That's
this
fine.
city and board has asked for, for a task force on the west side to look at the area that's north of you that I recognize is not necessarily all in your purview. But one of the things that is the Army Corps of Engineers work and their Plan B, which is upon us. And it would be really helpful to have a detailed explanation, if you can give it, as to where the authority stands on those plans. And
Yeah, because it's not funded yet.
right.
And in fact, it's on
And I
the
remember you have
the Senate.
address it in your, you did address it in your Q&A, but I think if there's any more information you can give, that would be helpful. And I think Tammy, did you have another, had a final question or you're done?
It's just about, can the public comment period be extended beyond the walkthroughs? So people have the time to understand the answers to the questions that you're sending, do the walkthroughs, and then opine.
Can't hear you. Tammy, you muted. No, you can.
Sorry, I muted myself. Okay, Tammy, I will take it back and I will advise.
You will let us know this week the answer to that question? Okay, is that right? Thanks. Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much. I know you weren't originally going to show up, and I don't regret having done so, but we really appreciate it. It's so much more efficient and really helpful to have a little bit of a moment as we start off the new year, to have had this moment. So really, really appreciate it on behalf of the committee. Thank you. So.
Thank you. Alice, you may not believe this, but it's helpful to me too, and us too, seriously, to kind of have some structure around the next few months and what to expect when. I had this conversation with Tammy kind of offline as well. It's helpful. And I know that the drainage in particular is something we wanted to have that conversation with. So thank you for helping us help you get to a better understanding there. And if we can start that conversation next month and build on it in the subsequent months, I think we'll continue to be in a good place.
Really great. And you'll be going, between the two committees, Battery Park City Committee, and I see Justine here, fantastic, thank you, Justine, and for the resiliency materials for us. All right, so with that in mind, we do probably want to get a resolution, skeletally laid out. I have taken notes on everything that was said. I don't know if anyone objected to any of the things that were mentioned in terms of what would be things that we would want to see in the walking tour, in understanding of what dates these will be and what we are expecting this week in terms of information and the like seems not particularly controversial. The need for the traffic studies, the need for signage, and this is all looking forward. I had recommended to Tammy that we look at this resolution sort of in terms of request for more robust community engagement or how you'd like to see the community engagement, but Wendy gave some great ideas here that we should include. And then the comments themselves on the plans. I don't know, Tammy, if you want to pull it up, what we have just quickly to show folks. So there have been, you all look, well, why don't we just start with,
How long is the fly-through video?
it's 8 minutes, but I think, yeah, I think that's why I asked everyone to
Yeah,
go,
I think it
because I don't think there's gonna be a moment where we're gonna dive into 7 reaches of the plans.
Seen it, right?
Well, I had asked her, I sent it as a link to everyone. Did everyone, that's a good question. Did anyone, who has seen it?
I saw that.
Is that for former league?
Yeah, they showed it at the last meeting, the one that was at Stuyvesant, but,
Yeah.
that 8-minute fly.
For those of you who have to take 10 minutes of your life that, their website, the Battery Park City Authority website is really tremendous, and it really is very inclusive, and it has everything we've ever done with them. And in that was a link to this fly-through, which is really, really helpful, and I think, it's a good beginning for anyone who's just getting acquainted with the project.
And that
Yeah.
FAQ document that you mentioned in your email is in fact a very good summary.
Oh, tremendously helpful, exactly. So in addition to those documents, okay, we're looking to do a resolution that, in addition to the Q&A that's being answered by the authority, there are many comments and questions that we as a board, a committee, and the public have provided to Committee Board One that didn't yet get answered. And so we're going to ask that those questions get answered in this resolution. And some of them are beautifully summarized by, thank you very much. I don't know if Nancy's online tonight.
Let's give her a whoop whoop.
A big thank you to Nancy Paciano, who went through, there you are, oh, hi, and thank you so much, who did an incredible job with Lauren, the summer intern, in summarizing all the 7 reaches, outstanding comments that hadn't yet, questions that hadn't yet been addressed in answer to your very smart thought as to we need this. So in general, she writes, the participants seem most concerned with the need to maintain the green nature of the area, the actual height of the flood barrier walls, the fate of the trees and open spaces and playgrounds, the plan's effect on traffic patterns and parking, the schedule for the project, which we sort of went over, and how much the project would cost. So that's the summary. There are 7, you want to show quickly just an example of what the kind of work she did, as Lauren did. So we're missing 2 reaches of summary, but we have the other 6, which I would propose to this committee, we add as an addendum or whatever you want to call it, to our resolution, so that the Battery Park City has that in addition to the summary that I just read, if there's no. And here's an example of her
We
appendix.
still have to do 1, 2, and 5 for us to attach by full board.
Well, Nancy, I don't know if you're still with us on that, but at least we have the other. So this, what's up on the screen now shows you reaches 3 and 4, where she has gone through every single question, right?
I know.
And I think it's extraordinary. Is there another page to that?
Great job.
Yeah, look at
There are
it.
5 pages.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So
Great job.
we all now know all the questions that were asked. And now we wait patiently for the answers. And that will be part of our resolution, it sounds.
Does she want to say?
Nancy, do you want to say anything about that, about your work? And thank you, but feel free or not.
You can unmute yourself.
No, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think it speaks for itself. I appreciate the opportunity, but I think the work is there. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Does anyone have a question?
And do you think that, it's hard to say, but is there anything missing? I know you're just summarizing what people have given, but I'm wondering if anything.
It's a great question. I think
I
that's,
don't know how to answer that. I'm not.
I think that is a really good question. I think we all had, that's why I sent around the documents so that you could look at this. And if there are other things you want to bring up, then
Those
sure.
themes look right, but I'm not an architect or an engineer or someone who would know from that perspective.
So, in answer to your question, there were 2 letters, that came through, that were, I would say, something we should also include. One was from the Hudson River Park Trust, who, their council, the Hudson River Park Council, which is sort of a governing body of sorts, which Tammy, our chair, is on, wrote a very powerful letter to the authority as to what their asks were and their thoughts. So I think that's something that we may want to make sure is part of the package. I don't necessarily think we necessarily, or I think to opine on their letter, but certainly
Should we
want
just
those questions
Are you
answered.
include the letter or you're just reference?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, here's the letter. So why don't you take a minute, maybe if you want to quickly peruse. Yeah, I think you can read that far away. Should I read it out loud? But I don't know.
Who gets it now?
Can you all sort of read? I can only read that loud or.
What's the main point or?
I'll get you to the bottom.
Well, it's basically addressing the 9-foot wall.
Right.
And, you know, I
That's the
tried to,
thing everyone cares about. I care about that.
So here's the, well, why don't I just read the therefore be it resolved? How about that? Now, therefore be it resolved that the Hudson River Park Advisory Council rejects the Battery Park City Authority Resiliency Plan in its current form, and be it further resolved that the council entreats the Battery BPCA to reconsider its approach and actively engage in substantive dialogue with the Hudson River Park Trust, the residents and businesses surrounding the park, and the businesses operating with Hudson River Park to formulate a comprehensive and unequivocally inclusive resiliency plan, and requests the establishment of a task force comprised of local experts, local elected officials, and the community boards for the purpose of working on an effective resiliency plan, and encourages the authority to explore alternative strategies and approaches to prioritize community input, transparency, and long-term sustainability, and be finally resolved that the council pledges to work collaboratively with the Battery Park City Authority, the recommended city-state task forces, and other stakeholders. And, you know, I agree. I don't think that's something we're opining on. This is the Hudson River Park Trust, and it's not actually talking about specific questions about the plan. So I think it's important that we recognize that the trust, our neighbor, has this document and that we all are respectful of it. But that we're not necessarily opining. So I think that seems fair. And the other document, the letters we got from people from the community who wrote us. And so I will summarize the three or four things that they had asked for. One was, again, and something that we as a board are on record for, wanting to form this West Side Resiliency Task Force. And asking that the Battery Park City Authority is now on record saying they have nothing against that idea, and the Hudson River Park Trust is very much also fine with the idea. So it's up to.
That's not what they said exactly. They
Oh,
said,
I thought they did.
no, that's not what they said. They said that
Who's the they there?
Gwen Dawson.
Oh, the authority? I thought when
Yeah,
it's,
so Gwen Dawson addressed it to say, there is no entity that, you know, I mean, it's like,
I thought she said she had nothing against the idea of
right,
bringing
it's
these
nothing
groups
against
together.
in the perfect world,
Yeah.
that would be true. But the timeline of this project and the timeline of the HAT study are so far apart. And, I mean, I'll just say that that's article that everyone should read by the way. But that's one of the things is that the timing of it is literally off by, you know, decades. So.
I'm
this-
sorry, this has nothing to do with,
No,
this
but
is-
the
yeah.
task force, it is, because there's no one to negotiate with for the HAT study. Because the HAT study team it's so high level right now. There's no funding.
There's no funding.
There's no funding to even study the plan to build it. So what Gwen Dawson answered, which I have to say she's factually right. It's like in a perfect world, all these projects would be built at the same time and we would all be coordinating together. But we're not in a perfect world, and this puzzle piece is going down way, way, way before all the rest of the puzzle pieces. And therefore, you're asking her to slow it down. And I just want to be on record again, because I voted against doing the whole thing. I am not in favor of slowing down, putting any puzzle pieces down, because funding, every city, every state, every country in the world is going to wake up. We're a little bit ahead of the curve because the hurricane season is coming. And I will just tell you my personal feeling, and I have family in Florida.
But-
We should build as soon as possible.
No, we're
And
not.
so the task force will slow it down.
Okay, just a minute. I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt. The resolution is about what we'd like to include to speak about the reaches. And this is something you can reject that we have already opined on as a board, which
Correct.
we can refer to and which we have adopted, which is the idea that the Battery Park City Authority would be working with an appreciative in a relationship with the Army Corps whenever their plans, and they are imminent in terms of Plan B, being discussed and furthered, but of course not being built. And so that's all that was saying, which is to simply always include an understanding of what the whole area of the west side is. And that's something that doesn't seem particularly controversial. We're not talking about time or delay. Okay, all right, we've heard you, we've got it, we've got it. All I was referring to was something the board has adopted that is in our own board minutes, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but, I mean, I don't know, and the wording makes a big difference because we don't want to generate an opposition to this resolution, which is community engagement on this project by throwing in there sort of reaffirmation of some resolution, some other resolution that some of us may have voted against.
Right.
And so, I mean, so the wording makes a difference. I mean, I have no objection to the task force, but I'm with Wendy in terms of delaying.
Well, I don't think anybody, would be supporting of delay, or maybe there are people, but is there some wording you can, our wordsmith? or-
I don't know, but I mean, I'm happy to, I don't know what you were contemplating in terms of that. I mean, certainly, I mean, I don't know what you were contemplating because I don't really understand how it directly relates to the community engagement that this
Well, that's
resolution
a
is.
piece of it, but we're also commenting on the plans themselves. So there is that overlap, but you could argue that it's not, I have to give it some thought, but I think what this is not from me, this is from somebody from the community that wrote us as a board a number of things, and it was the formation of the West Side Resilience Task Force. I think the concern here, which we also asked for, and which our congressman has asked for.
I'm not
Yeah.
quibbling with that. I'm just saying that might generate a negative vote on this resolution by gratuitous reference to something that's not.
Right, okay, well, okay, I hear you, so.
Yeah, I mean, I can support all.
Okay,
the
so
things
then
you
the
talked
other item was the variance for, this was very interesting to me, and I'm sure you've heard about this, the variance from the 15-foot vegetation-free zone between the trees and the flood zone barriers. This is that the Army Corps requires a 15-foot barrier, right?
Right.
And this, I think it was the neighborhood association is asking that they look at allowing for a smaller area, which would alleviate a lot of problems with having to get rid of so many trees. And I thought that was a really interesting and worthwhile thought, but I
I
don't
just want to
know.
put on the scope of this resolution. I agree that the removal of mature trees is something that's a concern to the entire community, including me. So anything that can be done to preserve mature trees consistent with effective resiliency is something I think we would favor, and this 15-foot buffer is one of the issues there. And so certainly exploring a waiver, but I wouldn't want to undermine the stability of the seawall
Oh, of
either.
course not. I think it's an exploration. I think that's a good word for
Yeah.
it. So,
But my broader question on this resolution is, are we intending to put in some comments on what we think about the plans or just the community engagement process in this
Both.
resolution?
I think this is it, Jeff, for this phase, for the September 30th deadline. So I think the thought was to divide the resolution. A lot of people are very upset or concerned about community engagement, which seems to be getting solved here a little bit, was the community engagement piece, things like what you described, what you want to see at the upcoming meetings, at the upcoming walkthroughs, and then also comments on the specifics of the plans themselves, all the questions that have been summarized that we've just talked about that are sort of factual questions that need to be answered, and anything else that you want to put forth tonight for this resolution and in front of the full board next Tuesday or Tuesday.
Well, I mean, one reason I asked is I actually did jot down some sort of bullet points of issues of concern, not necessarily that the design doesn't treat them properly, but the importance that the design do treat them properly, such as avoiding unnecessary removal of mature trees. But I have a whole handful of other bullet points that at an appropriate time I'm happy.
Well, I think this is it. For better, for worse, I think we have to kind of run through them.
You
I'm
have
sorry.
you have no resolution on file whatsoever since the designs have been presented. They have not come to a community board one meeting specifically to present design. It's all their own meetings. The community board needs to have a vote. We voted on a task force. It was presented. It was overwhelmingly supported. The letter that's shared here from the Hudson River Park Advisory Council wants a task force having nothing to do with the Army Corps of Engineers, but having to do with a task force for West Street, because they didn't even seem to understand. You can watch the videos, they're on both everywhere.
I'm not questioning doing the resolution, I'm just questioning what it is.
The breadth of the resolution.
But my question is also process. There are outstanding questions since June that we have no answers to. We went through and had Nancy and Lauren go through to try and come in. We'll send them off to the BPCA, but our understanding was regions 1, 2, and 5 were going to come back to us for design. Didn't hear Nick exactly say that. That was the last understanding that we had by email, because there were engineering solutions that would determine design. So that's actually new information for me, because I was told that yes, public comment on those 3 sections would be later. So we're being asked to provide all the public comments. I would have loved to have gotten a presentation in Community Board 1 or a walkthrough.
This does not preclude the fact that we will have another resolution after the walkthrough potentially.
Yes.
Slightly more distilled version. So let's just get, so go on for your points. And if anyone doesn't object, raise your hand if you object. Otherwise, let's put anyone's points.
There's a basic point that I don't think we've weighed in on, correct me if we have a resolution that we have, and that is, are we in general agreement with this alignment to, other than reach 1, whether potential other alternatives of alignment, but the rest of the alignment, are we in general agreement with?
So you're saying the alignment against the buildings in general, or other?
Against the buildings in, from north south, and at the border essentially of Rockefeller Park in the north.
I would say that there were people in the community.
I'm not talking about them, I'm talking about us. Are we in agreement? Because the alternative, there are alternatives, but there's only a few. And the other 2 main alternatives would be an alignment along the waterfront, which I don't think anyone favors, except maybe the Army Corps of Engineers. And in terms of there's really no other alternative in the south, but in the north, there would be an alternative and have the alignment through Rockefeller Park.
Which we saw that when did we see
Wasn't there a
that?
request though for an alignment option that went down River Terrace?
This is down River Terrace.
No,
Went on the other side of River Terrace?
to narrow River Terrace even further to avoid the removal of
I think
trees.
to answer your question, I don't recall that we ever actually did write a resolution, but it felt like there was a general consensus, whether we had a choice or not, that this was the approach that was being
Well, in terms of
favored.
the choice, I mean, nature makes the
Saw
choice.
these 3. That's what I'm trying to think. What was the timeline?
Probably a year ago.
Because for those of you who were in the room, that we were presented with 3 different possibilities. And I think the one along the water actually, because of the wave action or something, the wall would have to be crazy, like 20 feet tall.
Yeah.
So that was immediately, like, they were like, that's not practical. And also it's cantilever there and there's lots of complications. But the one through the middle of the park was a real discussion.
Right.
And because of the backlash from Wagner and everyone just saying, why didn't we just do a minimalist wall on the backside of Wagner? Why are we raising it 8 to 10 feet? The neighborhood in this committee very quickly leaned into basically the Wagner, the neighborhood Wagner conclusion, which is put it on a minimal side and let the park flood. And that's why we got to where we were. And
Okay, well, can I just say that at this point, that ship has sailed, if I'm understanding correctly, what the authority is on this, because the 30% design is based on the the 3rd alignment. So I think that's not something we probably, unless you all feel really strongly we should start over.
Yeah.
But,
I don't, but it kind of lets us off the hook when people start complaining about the alignment, but I agree with you. It's not really an issue anymore.
Well, I don't think it's an issue since the park will flood and it will be very expensive to put that lawn in and all those plantings every time it floods. And that was discussed.
I'm not sure.
I mean, for me, I don't understand why some of the alignment is where it is. Why can't it be done like they're doing at the Museum of Jewish Heritage and realign closer to the building line to prevent the
Well, that-
tallest of walls?
But
On the-
that,
They are.
well, on the.
Not on the north.
Anyway,
On the north, going down River Terrace, it's on the park side,
On
not
the
the
north.
building. And there were questions raised about going around,
Well,
and there were
I don't know the
questions.
street names. Can you-
We do have a, you know.
well, if we're gonna ever make a comment on alignment, now's the time to do it.
Why don't we ask, I think, because I can just suggest maybe we ask the authority in their response to all of this, that they review very carefully at each of the 7 reaches why they made the decision on the alignments, such as they are. I don't know how else, you know, yeah.
I have a really dumb question. I've listened to all of the talk. Is that wall coming up and down or is it just staying?
Parts of it do go.
Is that why?
Most of it stayed.
They talked
It's
about
not,
movable.
it's not decided yet, but when there's a crosswalk or where traffic goes, those will always be movable walls because you will need to put a wall across the street. Those are the movable walls, but in general, this committee has approved that as passive as possible is stronger, is, you know, it's gonna last longer and everything else. And the vulnerable points are anything that moves.
So we
So-
still have Nick here. Nick, do you want to respond to whether or not there's still open season out for the concept of reconsidering the alignment in any way?
I raised my hand, just because I wanted to, if helpful, respond to something that Tammy had said. In terms of the alignment, so the alignment that we had gone through when we discussed it in June is where the project team is in its current thinking based on everything we've heard from the community and in responding to the community to date. Now, to be fair, and it's a very good point, there are still decisions we need to work through with Reach One specifically. There's a whole host of considerations that we have to work through with our partners and stakeholders at Hudson River Park, BMCC and others. Reach Two, the North Esplanade, and Reach Five. So if helpful, as I wanted to note, I said earlier that in November, after we're back to you all in October, in November, we want to have what we're calling, now don't hold me to the title, but a post 30% design update meeting. And what we want to do at that point, if it's helpful to you all, is to provide a full update to the community, including everything we heard at the June meeting and how it has or has not been incorporated, as well, Tammy, as to have the areas that were not yet quite at the 30% design mark in June, have a little bit further advanced at that point, right? So reaches 1, 2, and 5. That doesn't mean that we're going to have all the answers for reach 1 in November. This is, again, a very complicated, detailed process. But what we do want to do is make sure that we're back to you with the answers and the decisions that we need input on for the reaches that were not quite at 30% design in June, which is 1, 2, and 5. And the last thing I would say, I'm sorry, just to reiterate, again, this is a key point. Anything that you see from this point on that's new, anything you see that's new, whether it be in October, November, or thereafter, the community board and community at large will, of course, have ample opportunity to provide feedback on what they see that's new through the end of the year at least. So you see something in October and then we do a meeting in November, we will likely have another tool where you're able to provide input on that latest post 30% design mark in advance of the 60% design, which we will also then have the process of coming back to you and discussing and doing a public meeting on and getting feedback on. So one process builds upon the next, upon the next.
That's true.
Sorry, I hope that helps.
Laura,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Laura Starr. Hi, Laura.
Hi. Hi. No, I was just gonna say, I mean, we did have a lot of time to comment on the alignment. So, you know, I'm not sure it seems like except for the 3 reaches that Nick mentioned, I'm not sure it's the best use of our energy to revisit that. I mean, I think that, you know, landscapes could be designed to flood. That's part of nature. So, you know, to me, it makes sense to let some of the water in as opposed to walling off the park from the river. But anyway, I just want to say I'm very relieved to hear that Reach One is not settled yet because I made a lot of comments. I don't know, Nick, I don't know if my comments were, like, I made all these comments on the,
I saw them,
oh,
Laura.
they were there.
I saw a couple of nice comments too.
I did. I made some nice comments
Right.
and I made some other comments. Okay.
No, I saw.
Okay, then
saw
I don't need to make more comments because I wrote them all down there. Okay. I'm glad Reach One. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I think it's really a mistake to put a permanent wall along the bikeway in Hudson River Park for all sorts of reasons. But we can get to that later. Okay, thanks. Thanks,
Okay,
Thanks,
so
Alice.
yep, okay. Thanks, Alice. Bye.
withdraw my suggestion we say anything about alignment, because as the reaches that Nick mentioned, 1, 2, and 5 are the ones with the most difficult alignment issues anyway, and we don't yet have what they're proposing there.
Okay.
But I think the comments that we've made in connection with alignment, fundamentally, one thing that I think is important to us and probably important to everybody is minimize walling off anything we care about. You know, that the resiliency requires achievement of an elevation in order to prevent flooding. But there are different ways that you can achieve that elevation, some of which are more noticeable and objectionable than others. And so I think we would favor, and I think the design team is working with this in mind to minimize the visual impacts, the physical height at the actual location. And to the extent that you can't minimize the height in a sensitive location, to explore deployables and to explore these half walls, glass walls that they've shown in some of their presentations. And so I think we should say that we're in favor of that kind of thing.
I think they also gave us a caveat to say they are investigating that feasibility.
Exactly, and we want, that's what we want them to do, is to investigate that feasibility. I mean, if at the end of the day, the only engineering solution possible has objectionable walls, we're stuck. I mean, we want resiliency, but we want to make sure that they've explored all the reasonable alternatives, which would include Reach One, would include in front of Gateway where there's the restaurant, it would include in the South Cove where's that other restaurant, and it includes Reach 5 and in the North Cove. We want to minimize walls and the obstruction of views, either from the landward side or for that matter, from the seaward side. We don't want people in the
I
park
agree.
and looking at a wall.
A lot of people, by the way, did ask, and I'm glad you're still here, Nick, for, I'm sure you've seen this, perspectives from the other side. In other words, not the seaside, but looking, from east to west for perspectives, because there was very little that was not, I think, west to east, right? Do I have that right? That's something else I thought we should include in terms of engagement presentation. Sorry, Jeff, you had a list, so I was,
Yeah, so the all of what I just said about the wall.
yeah,
I do think we want them to be conscious that they need to make sure that the seaward side of the wall can flood with minimal damage and reconstruction. We don't want there to be 3 years of reconstruction of Rockefeller Park after the 100-year storm. We don't want all of these trees to be washed out to sea or the vegetation to die because it can't sustain, exposure to brackish waters. And it goes to the lake point that
Yeah,
Sarah was mentioning. It's going to have a ton of water sitting on top of it. So we want them to pay attention to the design on the seaward side of the flood wall. Deployables, although I think we favor the reliability of passive barriers, we want exploration of deployables where passive barriers aren't practical. And whether we're talking about West Street or in front of the restaurants or in front of North Cove, we want to make sure that deployable options have been fully.
And on that, an asterisk that we have talked about in the past, who deploys it?
Yes,
And that's the big thing, because one of the things that we've learned is that, now it's temporary, it's not the same thing, it's apples and oranges, but they flew people up for the, when the South Street temporary
Mhm.
hydro dam, that
Yeah.
cost over $1 million and several days to put up and to take down. So we need to understand what's the team and how easy or hard is it to do?
right.
I'm sorry, on the deployables also, Nick, I would just say, you were asking, well, I don't know if anyone disagrees, but I find that to your question, I never know what's actually permanent and what's not in the drawings. It's very hard to tell. I mentioned that the red versus orange
that's
delineation
hard to
is
tell.
extremely, almost impossible to discern. So I'm hopeful that maybe you can do a color change, or at least something at a scale we can all understand what is permanent and what is deployable. That would be real, I don't know, maybe you all get it, but I haven't gotten yet, so that's
The
something.
materials is not in the 30.
It's something about materials, it's about what moves and is impermanent versus permanent. In other words, that's a different question of what they're being made out of glass or not, but is it supposed to be in the ground all the time or does it move? That's all I'm saying.
And should
Yes.
it be movable? Would it be remotely controlled or having people go fence and close the gate?
So that's, Wendy's really good point as to
Yeah.
who is doing this and
Yeah.
how's it getting done, so that we have that, yeah, great.
Next on my list is some kind of, I call it unnecessary design changes. And what I mean by that is the preservation of sort of the user-facing aspect of design, whether you're talking about Esplanade Plaza or aspects of the North Cove that people like. And, there's the flip side of this too. We can improve the user-facing design. We're tearing up the whole place, and why not fix some mistakes that may have been made before? But that's different than just license to completely redo something that may be working well. So we need to keep in mind what's working now from a user-facing perspective and not change it for the sake of changing it, but change it only for good reasons. And one good reason could be universal access. I mean, we can improve. This is an opportunity for universal access, and I think we support that. Improve, sort of non-storm resiliency and ecological factors, whether it's the rainwater capture, more porous surfaces. If you guys have seen what they've done in the sort of test areas in Battery Park City, you can walk through those places now without walking through a puddle, unlike lots of the rest of the Esplanade. So we want to make sure that they use this construction opportunity to ecologically improve things, not just for resiliency.
Can I just make a point on that? I don't want to leave it, but also thinking the changes you're making, how are you impacting the livability now? Right, like you're always
My
thinking
next
about
point
it,
is construction disruption is the.
but not just construction, but, so for example, the wall,
Yes,
if you have it up, it's very windy in Battery Park, but I like all the air. When you put all those walls up, are we gonna have like no air going through Battery Park and Tribeca, like all whatever smells, you know what I mean? Like you need some airflow.
It's part of the physical.
Right, yeah, like impact
You need a physical model.
model. And the second thing is around, you're looking at impact. If there's a storm, but what are all of the impacts that are happening by these changes, like my property values, right? My
I was
All of
gonna say,
those
that has definitely come up a million.
million times, so we just have to look at the two together.
Right, but
So-
that is definitely, trust me, all those meetings, there were a lot of people asking that question.
I understand, but they're always just saying it's about resiliency, resiliency, resiliency. Well, I mean, I work in environmental like sustainability, so I get it, but you also have to think about the other, I live down here. What is it, what are the impact of these changes are for a moment in time, but what about
think
the
what would have-
impact for everyday
Well,
life?
and to your point, there will be things that we think we know, but we don't know.
One of the questions was, what is the cost benefit? I don't know if this is
Yeah.
getting to, what is the cost benefit analysis for each alignment?
Yeah.
Well,
But also
it's not
livability, you're not gonna quantify the cost of the livability aspect.
Right, well, that's what I was gonna, I mean,
Go ahead, sorry.
the design, it's more than just cost benefit. Cost benefit to me is bean counting, how much does it cost versus what are you gaining?
Well,
We're protecting against this is what insurance companies do all the time. We're protecting against a catastrophic risk, but we don't want the premium that we pay all the time to be unbearable to protect against that risk. You know, we live here every day, people work here every day. That 100-year storm has a 1% chance of happening. And so we want to make sure that there is an appropriate balance between the protection for the 100-year storm
And
without
the-
destroying it every other day that we're here.
well,
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's-
a much more eloquent way.
no, very tough to discern. Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but yeah.
that-
And it's not the bean counting, it's the every other.
Right, and truly, that has been discussed for 6 years, absolutely.
But I think we need
But I
to
don't feel like it's.
reiterate that as
I
a,
didn't mention that in our.
and I think the design team is taking that into account.
But they
And I-
keep saying resiliency, so we haven't mentioned that. It's like in our,
But it goes back to,
because I agree with that.
you know, getting the word out to people about what's happening.
Okay.
I
Additional
think-
things
I
that
think
haven't
that's-
been said. No, I'm not trying to rush it to be.
No, I finished my list, so.
All right, anything else on anybody else's list that comes to mind? By the way, we will of course discuss the full board, so if anyone has any last entries between now and then, this is fine to add it. Okay, yeah, so first to the committee here, I don't see, go ahead.
This is probably way down the line, but were there to be flood walls, concrete flood walls, perhaps we could do art mural on them or, you know, change it up every 5 years inside to make it more bearable.
But that's what's happening right now at Wagner Park, from what I understand. Right, yeah, no.
It's happening on every building.
Right, right.
Make
To
lessen
the
the
set
impact
size,
or-
Yes.
the construction, yeah, very good.
Make it more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see that. Anybody else in-house here? The wet. Okay.
Alice, it's Richard.
Yep, Richard, go
Can you hear
ahead.
me? Yeah, so this is all in preparation for a resolution, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So we've had a long discussion here and it's a bit confusing to me as to what it is that we're going to be including in this resolution.
It's the comment, so it's in addition to all of the comments that were given, and I hope anybody who had anything to say, put them in the comments that is on the Battery Park City website in their document that they posted until September 30th. I would frankly put all the things that, for example, Jeff, you're talking about, I would have them in that document. We are doing something on behalf of this community board that identifies all of the comments we believe are germane to our interests. So that includes many questions that have not yet been answered at the various meetings we've all been to. In addition to what this discussion is tonight, those will be the comments about the actual plans themselves, somewhat obviously open-ended, it's a 30% design. And then there will be a part of this, we'll talk about public engagement, which we've discussed in terms of what we want to see going forward, in terms of the way that authority presents to us, what will happen on these walking tours and the like. That's, at least that's my recommendation, how to organize it. I'm all ears. This is a committee effort, so, you know, it's a work in progress. I don't know if that helps at all, Richard, but that's,
Yeah.
let's just.
I think, yeah, that helps.
Did you have an answer?
Yeah, and I guess we'll talk about it, we'll go through everything. I just,
But we're doing that now.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that for sure. And, you know, I think that, I don't know if you talk about timing and all of this, is that going to be in there as well as in terms of what, you know, are we also talking about the timing? Because, you know, we heard today the next timing is that, you know, if everything goes as they would want, it would start construction. Did I hear that correctly, in roughly 2 years?
We could certainly state what has been stated to us, but
Didn't he say that tonight?
Yeah, and that's what's in the June
you know,
presentation.
I don't know, there's a question, I mean, we would
It's not a
support.
question,
Yeah.
I just think that the timing pieces of it, because this is the first resolution, I think it's good for us to put the markers down in
Sure.
terms of our understanding of what the timing is. of everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because as we know, everything takes longer and costs more than whatever. you
Yep.
Put down, so I was
Right.
just
The
trying
project
to put the
schedule.
markers on the resolution.
Yeah, we will put the project schedule in as it stands today for 30%. Yeah, Carrie.
I'd just like to see something in the resolution that makes note of the amount and volume of users within the area, and to make sure that the design that is chosen can accommodate not only the existing flow of users, bicycle, pedestrian, strollers, but also the foreseeable growth in users. We haven't seen any, you know, I haven't been at everything, but I haven't seen anything along those lines that shows that all of these multiple layers of pathways that rise in elevation can accommodate the volume of traffic that we see on the Esplanade and along the Rockefeller Park now.
It's a great point. It's a little like what you had raised before, and Jeff, about sort of pedestrian studies, and this will all happen, of course, with environmental impact, but yeah, that's critical. And great point, yeah. I'm sorry to sort of rush through it a little bit, but I guess after an hour and a half, not exactly rush, but go ahead, Tammy, but I think we have to.
I would love to include a request that the public comments be closed after the walkthroughs. It's not a lot of time. I think it's super important.
Well, end of October.
End of October, and especially because I don't think that 62 comments in the portal is representative of the largest amount of engagement. So there were a lot more people that were at those.
How many people live in the Battery Park City?
Over 14,000 people. I'll give you the exact census data.
62 people commented and 14,000 live in just the Battery Park City.
76,000 live in Lower Manhattan.
Right.
Well, that's from
They don't know what's going on.
Yeah, no, I just.
They're not paying attention.
a little misleading, and not overly misleading, but a little misleading, because people did make oral comments at the meetings themselves,
Well attended.
and they were well attended,
And those
and,
didn't necessarily get.
and I mean, I haven't submitted anything
Well, do.
online, either. I know,
Let's do
but, yeah.
I hear you, yeah.
Yeah.
We can comment that it would be, we would like to see a more robust engagement, and hopefully that can happen between now and October, and perhaps the walking tours can be part of the impetus to that.
Well, Tammy raises a good point. Yeah, it's critical to get more people, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Nick, you said there were only, the biggest show was in June, it was 100 people, or did I get that wrong? It was 100, right? And each.
Oh, it was, so we did, I'm sorry, thanks, Alice. We did a count, it was 230 participants over the course of the June engagement that night. So whether it be in person or online across the two sessions, it was 230, which, again, we talk about this all the time. If amongst us and betwixt us, kind of mindful, conscientious community leaders could ever crack the code on how to get more people more engaged at an earlier point, I'd love to know the answer. But 230 people is actually one of the largest I've seen, I think, not to toot our own horns. I think we did a really good job of getting the word out. The community board really helped us. We've since then done like a ton of direct mailers, emails about the tool. The community board's put it in his newsletter. It's been in the broadsheet every day. I'd love to get more people involved, and I just hope that when we get to a point a couple of years from now when we're starting work, people didn't say they didn't hear about it. Any ideas you have about how to get more people involved? Game.
All right.
You know, I had the lemonade stand idea.
Yeah, the lemonade stand, right. All right.
No, it's a bar. You need your own bar.
Okay, I think I'm gonna begin to close this down, this conversation. I think we have a lot of points on this resolution that have all been stated. Of course, you always can listen to it again. We'll work on this leadership, on the skeleton of this, which everyone can help as they, something was misrepresented. Of course, I know we'll hear from you. And hopefully have that for the full board, of course. And anything else on Battery Park Northwest Resiliency Retreats? No. Okay, Nick, a million thanks, and very big thank you to Peter Ballman and company who have been waiting here patiently for their presentation. My apologies, Peter, but what can I say?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Alice, for having me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Question and take a vote.
Good point. Chair.
Call the question.
Okay, thank you. Do we have,
Second, third.
so are we supportive of the resolution that's looking at the common and public engagement as of today for the September 30th cutoff? We will have another resolution, but this is for now, what our thoughts are on those two topics.
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
should read it, but.
Well, okay. I've included everything that everyone has said. So if somebody objects to something, then you should have spoken up. But otherwise, I've included all the different, I hope I have. And I'll, of course, dutifully listen to the tape again. So I get it right. And I'm going to ask you if you don't mind to send me your bullet points.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Okay, so that said, can we get a vote? We do it by affirmation or just? All right, well, yeah, it's just, well, by show of hands, who supports this resolution?
Not sure what we're
1,
voting.
2, 3, 4,
I
5,
can abstain.
6.
I'll do that.
How many people are abstaining? 2 abstentions. Okay.
That would
So-
be an abstention. And what about online? Hold on. Megan abstained
Voted
and
And you're abstaining, if I, can I ask why you're abstaining or?
Yeah, where was this resource?
Where were the
I
resources?
just wanted to read a draft.
Yeah,
Oh,
oh, that's fine.
Sure, yeah.
We'll have it later.
yeah.
all right.
So that you're.
I don't remember seeing it.
No, we haven't.
That's what we're doing.
It's totally fine.
You need to, Richard, if his camera's on, he has to vote.
Right, Richard, are you voting in support?
I thought we
of
had to stop.
resolution? Okay, that's a yes, and
So Richard Corman votes yes.
Laura also.
Laura has to have a camera on to vote.
Laura, can you put your camera on there and vote? Laura,
And Nancy Vigiano, your camera is on. You are a public member, which means you're eligible to vote. She's in.
oh, wonderful. Well, welcome, I didn't know you became.
Yeah, we don't.
Okay, great. So Nancy Vigiano is our new public member on this committee, yeah, big
Awesome,
applause, that's
Nancy.
really great.
What is a public
Well-
member?
I'll go over that afterwards. I'll go through it. Andrea, yes.
It's like community board light. Laura's not voting, okay, okay, so we got everybody? Laura, if you come back and can put your camera on and vote quickly, that would be swell, but not happening, okay. Well, thank you so much for patiently getting through this, everybody, and, I'm glad that we got that done. And now we will have a presentation by Peter Ballman. This is sort of a fun one. Thanks again, Nick. Really appreciate your time. Peter is an architect and the founder of Rotary Park. He is from Ballman and Capalopa Architects. And you may remember years ago, I don't know if you want to pull it up, we did a resolution in December of 2020 in support of the Rotary Park, which had a different name at the time, I think it was St. John. And we supported the concept, but we did ask that they go back and consider, and I remember it was thanks to Laura Starr, great part, resiliency features in this. And this, as you all know, is on the west side, which you'll now see, as I know that Peter has some terrific documents to show. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And there is a possibility to write a resolution in support of the resiliency features if we think it's something we'd like to see. And so, or not. So are we ready to go?
Yep, I've made him a presenter.
Okay, Peter, welcome. And thank you so much for your patience and thank you for coming. Take it away.
Absolutely. I'm sorry that I can't join you in person. And I actually, before I get started, I'm being joined by Viola Jong of Transolar and Julie Petrak of Thornton Tomasetti. I believe they've both been muted. So if you could help them out with that, they might want to speak at the end. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my slides.
Jeff, your own slide.
Great. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Peter Viola, I moved over. Who is the other person? I apologize.
Julie.
Julie Petrak.
Yep, she's over.
Beautiful. Thank you. Viola might be rushing to catch a train, but hopefully she'll be able to join us in a second. So in addition to those two have, well, first of all, as Alice mentioned, I'm Peter Ballman. I'm one of the founders of Rotary Park. And we have a great team, and Viola and Julie have helped me put together this presentation and are there to answer some of the technical questions and with way more precision than I'm capable of. Also attending is Jared Shear. Jared is a member of the community board. He is also the founder of Tribeca North Neighborhood Association. And Jared and I have been working very closely on this project. He's been a huge help. I will explain that in some detail. So Rotary Park we're a 501c3 that is dedicated to transforming the Holland Tunnel Rotary. So what we're looking at right here, the Holland Tunnel Rotary, is 5.5 acres of space of automobile infrastructure placed, smack dab in between a bunch of vibrant and exciting neighborhoods, all of whom seriously lack open space. So a few years ago, as Alice said, we proposed a kind of grand architectural vision, which did receive a resolution from the Waterfront Parks and Culture Committee that essentially supported the effort to create public space out of the Rotary, not necessarily the design itself. And we were encouraged to explore resilience and to understand the resilience features in a bit more depth, which we have done. And that is what we're going to present to you tonight. And hopefully we can get some comments and hopefully your support. So over the last year, I mentioned I've been working with Jared, the Tribeca North Neighborhood Association. Jared reached out to us about a handful of trees that fell down around the Rotary during the pandemic, and trees that he was hoping to replace. That launched a huge initiative in his neighborhood, which has led to the Tribeca North Neighborhood Association. Jared's request for us to plant these trees allowed us to mobilize our network, which includes the Parks Department and the Port Authority, and we were able to plant those trees. So ever since we got those trees planted, Jared and I have been hard at work trying to now tackle the Rotary itself. So we boiled down all of the different issues to a couple of real salient points. Number one, the neighborhoods of Tribeca, Chinatown, Soho, and Hudson Square have the second worst air quality in New York City, in particular small particulate matter, due essentially to the heavy traffic in and around the tunnel and Canal Street. Number two, flooding. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, as you guys might be aware, is proposing a rather extreme and contentious solution to flooding on the Hudson River. Not only is it, a rather extreme solution, it's also, from our point of view, an incomplete solution. Number three, there is an undevelopable 5.5 acre in the middle of Manhattan that is providing minimal utility at present, and which is contributing to the environmental problems that are on everyone's mind: air quality, water runoff, and excessive heat. So the site of the Rotary, which is that 5.5 acre site, is connected to this network of infrastructure that spans the east and the west side, and all of these neighborhoods and all of these blocks, all of these streets share the same issues of traffic congestion, air quality, and flooding. So, is the Rotary going to be part of the problem, or is it going to be part of the solution? Well, currently it's part of the problem. It's not part of the problem necessarily due to its location, but it's literally part of the problem due to the material with which it is constructed and the way that it is constructed. This is the center of the Rotary, and even though it is lined by some beautiful, large, mature trees, the vast majority of the space is compacted soil and compacted gravel, or hardscape, concrete, etc., or asphalt roadway. So while it's 5.5 acres, only 4% of it is actual greenscape. It is actually dirt. The rest of it is hard compacted gravel. And while there are some trees, the vast majority of the space is open to the sky, contributing to a drastic heat island effect in this area. And essentially, because it is, as you see here, these are the elevations around the site. The center, the site is actually crowned. So the middle of the site is about 3 feet higher than the perimeter, which means because it is impermeable hardscape, in a heavy rainfall event, what is known as a cloudburst event, that water the rotary sheds that water across the roadway, taking all the particulate solvent pollutants with it into the sewer, directly into the river. So what do we propose to do about this? We propose to take this concept, which we see everywhere in the city, of the rain garden, which exists in small chunks throughout the city, and apply it to the 1.5 acres of continuous open space in the middle of the road. Essentially taking 5.5 acres of hardscape, which creates a tremendous amount of runoff and extreme events, and turning it into 5.5 acres of sponge, of absorptive material, groundscape, greenscape, that can absorb that water. So this is the way that it might look in section. This is the sponge at the center of the rotary. This is the rotary roadway. This is just kind of a general section, but there's also potential for a sponge at the fence line. And then of course, where all of us walk around the perimeter. So scope of work, just to be clear, is essentially this: to excavate. These numbers are general, but from 1 to 3 feet of compacted gravel and soil across the central space of the rotary. To install 1 to 2 feet of compost, biochar, earth, mulch, and topsoil across the rotary central space. To plant 200 new trees of varying species while keeping the existing mature trees that are already there. Planting native shrubs, hardy native grasses, and herbaceous perennials across that space in between all the trees. And then to connect to the existing drainage infrastructure at the rotary perimeter. We feel that by doing this, we can create a space that is in line with these Plan NYC initiatives. And Julie can speak to these because Thornton Tomasetti was part of constructing that plan. To achieve 30% tree canopy citywide. To implement a multi-layered strategy for flood resilience. To maximize climate infrastructure on city-owned property. This is state-owned, but hopefully we can work something out there. Creating accessible, connected, open public spaces. And reducing sewer overflows by up to 4 billion gallons. So again, because all the water from the rotary runs into the sewer, turning the rotary into an absorptive surface can help solve these issues in our own little corner of the city. Speaking specifically about water, and this is the issue that you guys were just speaking about, this is the EDC's map of all the various resilience projects around the southern tip of the island. As you know, right here at this dotted line is where the Army Corps of Engineers starts and proceeds northward. This triangle is essentially served without that wall. This is the location of the rotary, which sits essentially on a peninsula and is a little bit higher than the surrounding area. But the reason that flood wall is incomplete is that while it might, or that I said it was incomplete, is that while it might help with storm surge, it does not address the issue of cloudburst, which is almost a more prevalent concern, because the area around Canal Street in particular is low and is significantly lower than the surrounding area. So in a heavy rainfall event, which is projected, to dramatically increase, this area can still flood and Canal Street can still be shut down. So what we propose with the sponge is essentially to collect that water and allow it to, allow it to feed the trees and the ecosystem that we are planning to install, and that will absorb that water. Any water that does not get absorbed will be filtered before it passes into the food system. The water that passes from the roadway can be collected in these perimeter bioswales, these perimeter sponges, as can that from the sidewalk. Some of the worst air quality in the city. This is the study that they're referencing. So you can see here how the particulates that are generated from the roadway are essentially filtered by these trees. And through photosynthesis, as you know, trees are able to essentially digest the carbon from these emissions and turn it into biomass, creating more absorption possibilities. So the concept here is that by planting the Rotary, we can create a breathable zone around the Rotary. And then in terms of heat risk, this is the island of future heat risk. As you can see, Lower Manhattan is at significant risk. And kind of obvious, where you have exposed roadway, you have, a lot of heavy reflection of heat, whereas where you have the soil, you have less reflection. Trees also create a significant amount of shade, which can lower the temperature of the surrounding area and reduce the energy requirements of the buildings surrounding it. I know it's a little late in the day for comfort diagrams, but just bear with me. These are some diagrams that Transolar put together for us. And this is essentially capturing the hottest portion of the year. This is showing the benefit, the impact that our proposal will have with present climate conditions. These are the hottest months during from May to September. And as you can see, 20% of those days, of those hours are within the comfort zone, whereas creating an entirely green surface at the Rotary will increase those up to 63%. But more significant is the future projections toward the end of the century. You can see here this very dark color is the unbearable heat, heat beyond 38 degrees centigrade, which is projected to have, that's almost 20% of the days during this period will be unbearable. So by converting the Rotary into 100% greenscape, we're essentially eliminating that condition. So it's something for the future. And what we're hoping in terms of comfort, in terms of, by greening the center of the Rotary and creating that layer of comfort, what we're doing is that we're now refocusing attention around the perimeter by showing that the Rotary can actually be seen as a space that has value, that has utility. We can incentivize ourselves to invest a little bit of money around the perimeter and make the experience for pedestrians and make life around the Rotary more hospitable, and essentially turning the Rotary into a refuge. And there's a lot of work to be done. This is an existing condition on Lake Street, showing we're essentially, very close to traffic. Late is the easiest street to do anything with because it's not a heavy throughway. Here is Hudson Street. As you can see, very unfriendly, a lot of hardscape, a lot of space, but it's all hardscape and no trees. And then on Varick Street, we have parked cars, which are taking away from the sidewalk. This is primarily NYPD. And we have a large pedestrian bridge, which is not ADA accessible, essentially making it impossible to move from the east side to the west side if you're not mobile. So there's a lot of room for improvement. And what we essentially want to do is, as diagrammed here in this slide from Thornton Tomasetti, start to reimagine the sidewalk as a multifunctional surface that is both permeable, that can collect water, that can drain water, and that's more accessible to pedestrians and to bike traffic. What we want to do is absolutely in line with the DDC guidelines for high performance infrastructure, as well as in line with the EDC's climate adaptation toolkit, in particular, increasing tree canopy and greening the streets. And most importantly, what it's also in line with is what's been happening over the last 2 decades, at least all across the city, where the DOT and Parks Department and local bids have been able to work together with these strange interstitial unloved spaces and at a very low price point, really transform them and make them a kind of a refuge and a place that's worth stopping at. So what we want to do with our proposal is, I'm going to try to outline how we want to achieve all of this. And that is essentially to understand what's happening at the center and what's happening at the perimeter in parallel. And Rotary Park will work, ideally would help push both of these pieces of work in parallel. In the center, the Port Authority, the fence line here represents the property line that separates the Port Authority's property from the city property. So inside the Port Authority's property is the sponge, and the Port Authority will own that and be responsible for that. What happens on the streets is a more grassroots operation where Tribeca North works with us And we're working with the DOT, with Parks Department, with the City Council to improve all of these spaces around the perimeter. And again, these have to happen in dialogue. The way that we see the rotary, the sponge happening is beginning in the center. We're calling the center easy because there's a lot of work area, and you can, once you have equipment in there, you can pretty much get it done. This would get us to 30% greenscape and 70% hardscape. Number two is a sponge at the perimeter, which we're calling medium because there's a little bit more coordination. There's less work to less space to work, but it is more accessible and potentially very transformative. By greening the perimeter of the rotary, that means outside of the roadway, but inside of the fence line, you're getting up to 60% greenscape and 40% hardscape. And then lastly, creating a permeable roadway. This would get us to 100% greenscape. We're calling it hard, not because it's not doable, but it would involve a lot of R&D. It would involve Port Authority accepting a new material for a new roadway. But we think that if we have some successes with the sponge and move our way outward, then there might be a chance of achieving 100% greenscape at the rotary. And in terms of public spaces, this is something that I've conversation that spoke with Betty Kay about, was inspired by her thoughts on how we might approach improving the perimeter of the rotary. Essentially, you start where it's easy and you work over to where it's hard. This area is hard because New York Police Department has a precinct 1 right here, and they occupy a lot of the space with their parking. So what we'd like to do, and the reason that these two areas are moderately difficult is because they have a lot of through traffic and there's a lot of coordination necessary with DOT. But Lake Street is pretty simple. It's entirely residential, almost entirely residential. It's not a lot of through traffic. And there is the incentive of it is where all the people that move across the pedestrian bridge are received, who are moving from east to west. So here we want to give ourselves a small budget and try to make some real improvements like we did planting trees here and really drastically improve this space and create a small victory that can give us a little bit of momentum to move on to Hudson Street and then over to Varick. And meanwhile, we'll try to find some new parking for precinct 1. So that we can replace these areas with parking areas with swales, and hopefully this one right here with a playground, because there's a lot of schools in the area that need places to play. So our goal is to transform the Rotary entirely into an environmental asset, a public amenity, and a piece of green infrastructure. We'll do this by reducing runoff, collecting water, reducing the heat island, improving carbon sequestration, and improving the dismal air quality of the area to whatever extent possible with a 5.5 acre area. And then a ton of improved pedestrian experiences, obviously creating more shade, creating bioswales at the perimeter, creating more places to sit, more places for people to play, for people to enjoy, which we believe will come once people see the potential of the Rotary to actually become a green space. Similar to what's happened at Freeman Plaza, we're kind of changing the thinking of the Rotary so that the community will stop seeing it as a place entirely exclusively for cars that is an eyesore that should be avoided at all costs, and start seeing it as a destination, as a place where you can sit and relax and enjoy the city. That's it. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Not everybody gets applause after a presentation. That was really terrific and really interesting to see where it's come in the last, I guess, 4 years. So questions around the room. Okay. Go for it.
I love this. This sounds terrific. I'm wondering if you've considered making the center Miyawaki Forest. That would greatly improve the air quality of the region and also be self-sustainable in that it wouldn't need much upkeep after a few years. So I think the big difference between that and what the current plan is the density of vegetation.
Well, right now what we're what we want to propose is the concept of scraping out all the gravel and putting in some permeable earth and putting some native planting that is essentially low maintenance and that could increase the health of, create a little ecosystem essentially, I mean, you get so much benefit. You get, Jared and I know the trouble that goes into planting a single tree, but you get a lot of benefit out of a single tree. But it's also limited what you can get out of a single tree. When you put a lot of trees and a lot of vegetation and a lot of wildlife into the same space and you have a lot of area, you gain a tremendous amount of benefit, right? Exponentially beyond what you get by a single tree. So however that is achieved, we at Rotary Park are 100% open to it, whether it's one kind of forest, whether it's trees, whether it's a lower kind of shrubs and vegetation. We're very much open to it, but this is something that needs to be studied. And right now we're putting the concept out, and absolutely we'll need a lot of input from a lot of different experts.
Peter, the other thing to keep in mind in the conversations with the Port Authority, the main hesitation that they may have is that the space they like to maintain for staging in the event of a major event that requires it. So it's sort of balancing those two things.
Yeah, absolutely. And the conversation we've had is if you think of the center of the road as a field, you can drive heavy trucks and heavy equipment in a field. You might drive over the grass, and the grass, this is in an extreme scenario where you have to drive fire trucks and ambulances and things out there. You can destroy the grasses, and the grasses will grow back because essentially what you're building is a sustainable, resilient ecosystem. And there will be a balance between trees and shrubs and maybe even some permeable pavement inside the center of the Rotary. But what we're really, and I think we're open to all of that, and we want to find the best balance. And obviously, we'll have to work with Port Authority to find that. But the goal is just maximize permeability.
Great. Okay. And then my second question is just out of curiosity: are you getting any benefit from the businesses because this is in a business improvement district?
This is actually not in a business improvement district. There's no bid for this particular area. The Hudson Square bid stops at Canal Street. So Jared and I talk about this all the time. What we're trying to do is create a community improvement district. Even almost as like a prototype of a new type of improvement district, because that's really what this is about. And will there be benefit to the surrounding businesses? Absolutely. There's almost no public space. What we found is because of all these are historic buildings, the sidewalks have vaults underneath them. So it becomes very challenging, as I'm sure many of you know, to just dig a hole and plant a tree. As a result, this area, Tribeca, Soho is a little bit better, I think, but Soho's got almost no public space. Tribeca's got some public space, but very little green space on the streets. And so I think everyone benefits from finding a way to transform the Rotary into this kind of asset.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to hats off, applause. It's really great. I can't say enough good things. I just wanted to make a suggestion because this morning I was at the Brooklyn Banks Park, the Gotham Park, that Rosa Chang was on our community board. She took delivery and I helped unload a truck with 325 free plants from the Parks Department. And actually, it's going to be planted tomorrow. If you have any free people, you could show up and make a connection. I will be there at 8 a.m., as will other volunteers that would be planting those 325 plants under the Brooklyn Banks Park where the skateboards are and everything. And I think they learned a lot about, they are only using native plants, just like you're thinking. They're already learning about, things, compacted soil, all this kind of stuff that I'm sure you're learning about as well. But I think that's a win-win if maybe you already know them, maybe you're already partnering with them, but, they're kind of a little ahead of you on that front.
Absolutely. And actually, it was in a conversation with Megan Brosterman, who was at Gotham Park, that the whole concept for the sponge came alive. Yeah, she's really the hero behind the scenes of this vision.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's wonderful. And do you know what's underneath the center? Is it just dirt all the way down in stone, or is there infrastructure under there like there is in the rest of the city?
There's we don't believe there's significant infrastructure. Well, okay, so around on the corners, the northwest corner and the southeast corner, there are subway tunnels. So there's a right of way that impacts that, but that won't impact the center. There is also the shaft down to the third aqueduct that is entered from the sidewalk portion on Hudson Street. So there's a certain right of way associated with that. But other than that, I've looked at this with my team, and which includes Langen Engineering, and I've also spoken to the Port Authority about this at length. And no flags have been raised about any significant piece of utility or infrastructure that's underneath the center of the Rotary. Obviously, we would have to we'll have to do some cores like we'd have to do anywhere. But again, we're talking about going down 2 to 3 feet.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Sure.
Hi. Sounds great. I walk by there a lot. Sounds amazing. Neighborhood access. I don't see an increased pedestrian access to the space.
Mhm.
See the bridge and then the other one. That's all I see. Maybe there's more in your plan. I don't know. The other thing is the drainage. I mean, you're thinking everything's going to come down, but if it's completely soaked, can the current infrastructure handle it? Or is that part of your project, adding more drainage?
Peter, I can jump in on the drainage question. This is Julie
Fantastic.
Peacock. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, I think one of the maps that Peter showed was how the Rotary is actually in a bit of a high point. So currently what's happening with the drainage is there's not a lot of existing drainage infrastructure there as it's not a highly utilized area, and everything's sort of running off that high point to the surrounding areas that are already low points that are flooding. So you could see on the map around the area, you've got flooding issues. So what we're actually proposing is going to be an improvement not only for the Rotary, but also the surrounding areas. When Peter's talking about a sponge, the goal of the sponge is to actually have as much water as possible infiltrate that location instead of running off to the lower locations adjacent to it. So I think that's one of the, from a drainage perspective, I only see improvements here, particularly not only for the Rotary, but even improvements to the surrounding area. I think we will be able to alleviate a little bit of that runoff that's happening now and capture that on site so it's not going to neighboring streets.
Thanks, Julie. And as for the public access question, you're absolutely right. And that is really, when you look at the differences between the original vision that we proposed 3 years ago to CD1 and what we're proposing now, one of the things that got lost is the sort of the approach to providing kind of maximum public access, which is what we were trying to do originally. Providing more public access across the Rotary is a big challenge. It involves a lot of input from the port, a lot of collaboration, and a lot of transformation of what's there now. It's not really feasible to get into the center of the Rotary. It's not safe. It's unless you walled it off. But to get across the site would require more footbridges, more pedestrian bridges. What we're essentially proposing and have sort of begun tentatively having conversations with the port about is, that existing pedestrian bridge needs to be rethought. It needs to be redesigned. You need to have elevators in it. It needs to be upgraded. So we're hoping that at least over the course of this project, that can pick up steam and take on a life of its own as a design project, either with the port or part of a public competition. But of course, that can happen. That can also happen parallel to or after the sponge happens. So again, part of this is about transforming the way people think about the space. Right now, it's hard to get a lot of support to do something really big and drastic at this site. Believe me, we've tried. That is because people don't really think of it as a space for people. People think of it as just a space for cars. So transforming it, into a green space, into a resilient space that's actually doing work that people can be proud of, we'll start raising these questions about now how do we get across this thing.
Peter, I think one thing that's also worth mentioning, which is sort of a middle ground, and wasn't necessarily touched on tonight, but is something that we have discussed quite a bit, is that the perimeter areas, a lot of the green space is actually behind the fence line, and it's a big ask. But the whole idea here, because you're dealing with a big organization, a big bureaucracy, the Port Authority is chipping away at it. And, if you look at what has been done on Hudson Street north of Canal by the Hudson Square bid, they took, area that was largely paved and by planting it, really transformed it and made it more accessible. Something that we've talked about a bit, and maybe it's not on day one, but maybe it's on phase two, is an idea of shifting the fence back to the rotary roadway and taking that space that is planted but not accessible, that's around the perimeter, and planting that all in a way that it creates these sort of micro parks around the space for the benefit of the community. It doesn't have the same challenges as getting into the center of a major roadway.
Right.
Yeah. I think this is a very interesting idea, and I actually like it better than your original idea, if only because it does seem more practical to actually accomplish. Question I have is the permeable pavement for the roadway. Does such a thing exist? And what implications does that have for the drainage under the roadway, which now would drain into presumably the sewer system?
Well, yeah, the relationship between what happened, the way that, well, that has to be permeable pavement does exist.
I mean, like for traffic, I know there's permeable pavement for human beings to walk on, but for the Holland Tunnel exit, that kind of traffic.
It totally, that's kind of why when I sort of, briefly brought it out there in terms of my diagram of the three phases, the sponge in three phases, it's listed as difficult. Primarily, not that it doesn't exist, but that a lot of R&D might be necessary in order to find a product that would suit the traffic, the specifications that the Port Authority might have. So yeah, I think there's a lot of work there that needs to be done there, and I think we would love to investigate that with the port if they were open to this. In terms of what happens underneath, I think there's a certain depth to the sponge, there's a certain depth to the permeable surfaces, and I think that we have to, whether it's surface drainage or drainage below the pavement, would find a way to hold that water, to store that water, and to treat it like a sponge before it makes its way into the sewer. Again, I mean, the entire point here is to reduce the runoff from the rotary that goes into the existing sewers.
The other thing worth noting about the sewers in the area is that several of them are marked as flowing directly to the waterway. So not all of it goes into the sewage system. Some of it flows directly out and contributes to coastal flooding as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee here in the room or members remotely? Carrie. Great, Carrie.
Okay, hi. So I loved your presentation the first time I heard it. I happened to be at Parks and Waterfront that night, and it's extraordinary and visionary. And I loved it, but I do understand how practical wins out sometimes in these circumstances, and I applaud the practicality of this new iteration. I hope that someday the vision is back on the table, but for now, this makes perfect sense. Have you looked at, especially given what Jared just said about the sewers having runoff directly to the river, what if you put catch basins underneath the sponge so that you could actually capture even more water, especially if Canal Street's going to flood? You know, we have a lot of low-lying streets in that area. If we have water inundation before the Army Corps of Engineers gets a 18-foot wall built or whatever they decide to do, if we could have catch basins or some giant catch container under your sponge, we might do a lot of good with both the cloud burst and storm surge and various other things.
Absolutely. And, I guess I'll talk about that first. Because the rotary is on a peninsula, our original scheme goes down about 18 feet, more or less. The scheme that you refer to where we're going under the roadway. And there's enough earth there before you get to the water table to get that deep. And so you could potentially create a reservoir underneath within this peninsula. We're not putting it on the table in this presentation because it's kind of next level. It's a little bit more complicated. I mean, what we're trying to convey with this presentation is that scraping away 2 to 3 feet of gravel and then putting soil on it is actually very doable and very achievable. And we could start right away. And you could do it for a couple $1 million. You could be done in 6 months and you would radically transform this space. And so we want to maintain the simplicity of the vision of the sponge as it is. That said, the next level of project is exactly what you're saying, is creating the potential of a catch basin within that peninsula space underneath the surface of the rotary, where you could begin to redirect water from the perimeter and use it as a holding basin. That would involve significant redesign of sidewalks and rerouting of underground pipes from, in particular, Canal Street and 6th Avenue, which is the low point. But you could potentially drain all that water into the rotary site. I don't know that could be done faster than the Army Corps of Engineers scheme would be built. I mean, these are long-term issues that involve a lot of coordination, but they're absolutely feasible. And the rotary, that's the next level of potential with the rotary. And then just to speak to Jared, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, back in, I think it was May, right, Peter? We gave a presentation over at Spring Studios, invited members from the community, and Peter went through short-term goals, long-term goals, and nothing's off the table for the long term. But there's a lot of this. My involvement in this started, as Peter said, year and a half ago when we tried to replace something as simple as 9 trees on one of the blocks. And the amount of coordination that went into it, and the amount of wrangling, and the amount of cross-agency negotiation, and lawyers and paperwork back and forth, it showed us sort of a snapshot at what is achievable and what is achievable down the road. And right now we're we're trying to get people to coalesce around the idea to basically say, this is a good idea, let's proceed forward. And that's really how we zeroed in on what we're calling the sort of more immediate, more achievable step. But that doesn't foreclose anything in the future.
Yeah, and
So thanks so much, Peter and Jared. I think, are there any other questions from any member of the public or team here? I know that this group had hoped to have us support this effort towards making the space kind of come alive. I mean, I quote them, I thought it was a beautiful presentation where they want to create turn the Rotary into an environmental asset, a public amenity, and a piece of vibrant, I think it was greenscape or some such thing. I for one would support a resolution that does in fact support that, not necessarily anything else, but that concept. And I think it's an incredible transformation from a few years ago. I too love found the other one very intriguing, but this, Jared really puts it out there. Yeah, it's realistic, and he has gone through just getting those trees in the sidewalk. So there's a real understanding of what it takes, and this does seem almost doable. So very exciting. So I would, I'm I'm throwing out a motion to write a resolution in support of the concept of this. Sorry?
Second.
Okay, but Rosa hasn't. Oh, okay, well, we'll have to I'm sorry, that came in after my vote on the second. So you have to go forward, so I have to go forward. Sorry, Rosa, delighted to hear from you afterwards. Does anybody, do we have all? Let's see, let's go.
Just clarify
Yeah.
what the resolution,
Well, do tell me. My takeaway is to support the transformation of the Rotary into an environmental asset, public amenity, and private piece of greenscape. I'm quoting from them the idea of the center as a sponge with or without what specifics of the tree versus, low ground materials are. The idea of the periphery that they describe of those modifications. I think those are the main features that they describe. Does anyone else have other things to, I would give the background that they give, that we have passed resolutions.
Just one more question of these guys. The Port Authority was objecting to, or said they wanted to use the center for staging for what? How frequently do they actually do that?
I think what they're essentially saying is a Hurricane Sandy, 9/11, like major event, not a routine.
They don't routinely use that space, right?
No, yeah. It's kind of just a holding space that they use in an extreme scenario if they need it.
And in fact,
Also in the event where if there were to be a heavy traffic incident right there at the Rotary, they have that space that allows them to pull vehicles off, et cetera.
Right. Yeah, I was just gonna say, in fact, when there were the curfews in 2020, they used the roadway as a staging area. They didn't really even use the center. That was just my first.
If you want, sorry to interrupt you guys, but we're actually in the middle of a vote, so if you want to.
I just want
Yeah,
clarification what the issue was. I understand if I were the Port Authority, I probably kind of falls into my category of nice to have as opposed to,
Are you looking to add something to
I am
the
not.
resolution?
I am not.
So on that, just that simple point, and I would ask all you guys to, when you come back next for presentation, whether it's here or elsewhere, that you fill in a little bit of the blanks about the economics of it, the financing of it, and the sort of next steps and
And the
how this
drainage.
might or might not happen. That would be great, so that we could then even, be more specific and detailed in the support. But I think, what else?
I would vote in favor.
Do you hear that they don't have any money yet and it's gonna be a fair amount of raise? When you do the resolution, is that something that matters?
Are you asking for a notation that you're looking for the city and Port Authority to help fund and support this effort? Is that what your question is?
No, I didn't know if the community board would make a resolution on something that has no funding. That's okay. I think the process, but
For what?
I went to their presentation at Spring Studios.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I asked a question on funding.
Well, it sounds like we're now not resolved to make a resolution, so you want to open this back up to questions?
It was a resolution to support the general concept,
Oh, okay.
correct?
Yes, that was what I was proposing, but
Yes,
I am
that
one
was-
member of this committee, so I'm happy to.
But it was called and seconded. So we should, by a matter of business course, take a vote on that.
If it's
Yes.
just general.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I'm okay.
Okay, I have all yeses in the room. Who else is on the committee online? Richard and Nancy.
Yes, here.
Yes, Nancy.
Laura, if you're here, you have to turn your camera on to vote. If not,
Rosa looks like she put her hand up.
Rosa put her hand up.
Okay, Rosa, sorry, and thank you. I know you know these guys quite well, and I assume you're the support. Anyway, we have another shot at this at full board. I would ask, Peter, if you could, to maybe provide a little description. I remember at Spring Street also about the financing. I think that would be something I wanted to ask, but given the time, I think it would be helpful if you gave that to us. a little bit of a description of where you at with the idea of financing this. That would be great. I think we're going to move on from this item. Did we get to vote? Is it unanimous? Yes, it sounds like.
Yes,
And
I should abstain, actually. I'm gonna recuse.
okay.
Hi, Laura. Okay.
Hi.
All right. Okay, so the last thing on the agenda, which I think we can really pretty much take up in the next meeting, but I do just want to give people a moment. Thank you, oh my God, Peter and everybody, thank you so much. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. That we can be supportive, and Jared, thank you so much. Really great to have you here and on the board doing this work. So more to come, and hopefully this is the beginning of more support. And I think it's a fantastic idea. Personal stuff for what that's worth. Anyway, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for having us and for your
Thanks for
support.
coming.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. So
Thank you.
The budget requests, I hope you all have had a chance. I know that we sent around more times than we probably needed, the list of the 101 budget ideas for 2024. If there's anything that you want me to highlight here tonight as we go around very quickly, just to stick in here right now, speak now, like Jeff does his homework and had bullet points before, I'm happy to write them down. Sorry?
This on it, presentation that we just.
It is in fact on it. It was on it, interestingly, in the last rendition, but we should certainly up it to include this resiliency component. Absolutely.
Where was it?
I'll find it. Let's not worry about where it is. I'll find it.
I have a question about this document because I did do part of my homework and looked at it.
You can always get on with.
So this is, what we're looking at here is the actual one for 2024. Yet it appears to have agency responses. Is that, I mean, does the agency actually respond before we?
So this is the budget for 2024 with the agency responses. So if it has not been funded for the additional information. So for example, if you look at the one that we have up, stormwater retention in Barnett Newman Triangle, right? That's the top line. The agency response says further studies is needed by the agency. Location is noted, flooding locations are being evaluated. It is something that you want to keep on and potentially maybe add to create a special study. But you can't build on what we do for budget year 25 without knowing what they've said to us based on the requests we've made for budget 24.
Oh, okay.
Because technically, if you think of it this way, we are in budget year 24 already.
I see.
And so it's-
Oh, we're about to be, okay. All right, okay, thank you.
Maybe this is not the place to put it, but do you think electric ferries would be inappropriate for this, a budget request? I know this, the ferries for the rest of the city, probably not, but at least for Staten Island, the city does have control over that.
So the city has control over, and we will have a presentation by Hornblower for the new city ferry contract that they have from the east side. The west side ferries that leave from the Brookfield Pier are managed by Port Authority and Waterways.
Okay.
And then the Staten Island ferry is a city-owned ferry.
Right.
So there's a couple alphabet soups that you got in there. The request to electrify the Blue Highway is certainly something that would be for environmental, I would think. And cross over into Transco, both.
Is that a capital or?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is how the city currently manages the fleets. So the city used to own boats, but the city doesn't necessarily own boats anymore. But you can't buy boats. It's the catch-22.
Yeah.
What came first, the chicken or the egg?
All right, well, wait a minute.
So you can request the city create the infrastructure and the protocols for the electric ferries on the docks in order to then guide the leases of of what kind of votes they'll need to buy the plug.
In any event, it sounds like a good thing.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Accepted. What else you got?
It's not us, but, multilingual signage drives me nuts that there isn't that.
But signage, I'm sorry, could you? What-
Street signage, park signage, access signage. There are so many different, people, different kinds of people now. And you can see people going,
Well, I think it's an interesting one. It definitely isn't this.
It's
so
not
I
us.
would just, I don't know, put it down and, yeah, I'm not sure, I guess that's.
Leave it right.
it's just so annoying.
Or water from Parks and Culture, yeah, no, well.
I can't tell you how many people in Battery Park City alone, can I help you?
That's about it, and
Because
that's,
they don't know where they're
that's
going.
Battery Park City signage. Make sure you mention it when you're at the Battery Park City Committee.
I do,
And DOT does signage, so there's that.
whatever.
Sorry, composting on the, I'm not adding anything, I'm just commenting on the one, so there, you have composting in here, composting has been funded, starting in Brooklyn, it'll roll out into Manhattan next year.
Right.
And we add in the whole point around education and outreach. Carbon
Yes.
sanitation is usually just,
Yeah.
we'll fund the program,
I
but based on
apologize.
what I've seen in Brooklyn, they're not
DSNY,
funding
here we go.
outreach.
It's right here.
Yeah, but it has to be updated, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this just says recommends funding this budget, and then it talks about local law 97, which has nothing to do with compost,
Right.
it has to do with greenhouse gas emissions and
Yeah, right.
energy efficiency. So that whole section doesn't really make sense to me. Give me the
page,
saying,
Give me the page and the item number.
oh, I just look on the internet. They give me that. On the internet?
One is.
It's under DSNY.
Compost, all right. This is that way, okay. You
Yeah.
got it.
So just education and outreach in addition to funding it.
Absolutely, great one.
Along those lines, is there enforcement piece of that too for businesses?
Oh, my God, yes.
That's
please
what I
do
was
that.
going to ask.
They've expanded composting, but they're not funding enforcement of.
Totally agree.
For restaurants and businesses and.
Or
I mean,
apartments, they're my clients, I can't rattle them.
So
They have an item in there.
what they have said, let me reply to that, is this is not a budget request. The matter of question is an issue of service delivery and our agency policy.
No, but we had a funding request, it's sort of like increased enforcement of dirty sidewalks / dirty area,
Yeah.
failure to clean area laws. And their response there, although Department of Sanitation supports this program due to fiscal constraints, the availability of funds is uncertain. I think we should keep it in there.
Of course,
Which one is that?
It's, 301-202-421E.
If you're interested in that, the Sanitation Foundation, I sit on the board of the Sanitation Foundation, which is the public-private arm of DSNY. You should tell me if there's any conflict there.
I'd like for you to, we've talked about this,
Yeah.
I know that we're gonna have to come back and just give a.
I'd love to.
That would be really fabulous. Certainly don't want to do this to you now at 29. Go
But
ahead,
they're
Sarah.
working
I
on
would
clean
never
streets.
forget.
and
I'm
doing all
sorry,
the-
it's the same thing. There's no enforcement. Drives me nuts, like where we live in Gateway Plaza. I know that the workers throw it right down the chute as opposed to actually really recycling.
Yeah, the recycling.
That's gonna
It
be,
drives me
that's
nuts.
gonna be something this committee. we
I
should
have
really
witnessed
look
it.
forward
We
to much
need
more.
enforcement.
I agree with you. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think that's a problem citywide.
Yes.
I have to say that, it's not, a lot of citizens take the time to separate, and then when it's collected, it actually gets
It makes no,
together.
Immediately.
Yeah.
A lot of it does get separated, and if you get to sit, sorry.
It depends, but, there's.
It depends, that's a very,
Right, it depends, but a lot of it.
some of it does.
Yeah.
some of it.
But it goes on with education and enforcement.
Battery
yeah.
Park City.
Okay.
100%.
Any,
Anybody else with budget thoughts that they want to add, edit, or remove? obviously, in October, this will be the final round of it, so you have time, but I'm gonna assume that that's our contribution. We will work together on updating what's obviously, thankfully, we have pointed out of date and incorrect. And,
And we only did environment, I only looked at for EPC.
oh, but you wanna look at all of them,
Okay.
actually, yeah.
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 And so it would be great to learn more about all that stuff, because like I was just in Brooklyn and they have all those cute little composting trash cans that are so cute. They're
We
like
haven't-
tiny and everything.
We do
And
have.
I haven't seen
They're
them.
hard to find.
They're like.
No,
We have to.
3
very
in walking
few.
distance of my apartment.
The Downtown Alliance and the composting
And
program
that-
that they piloted in Downtown Alliance in Lower Manhattan, that was then taken over by PSNY.
That's
So
right,
it
I
does-
have bins that with the
Yeah.
code.
Right, so it exists right now
It'll
south
be all
of Chambers,
the
it does not
bins.
exist right now north of Chambers now.
No, sorry, get the New York City Compost app. I live by Bubby's and I
Yeah.
can go to 2 different
Awesome.
spots within a
Love
block.
to hear
That's
that.
great.
It's true that I'm gonna ask a quick, it's true that every commercial,
Yeah.
restaurant has to have bins.
Depending on your size, your square footage and number of locations.
Can you do me a favor, send us the compost app, like a blurb about, we'll include it in the newsletter.
You're doing a presentation October, November. Yeah, no, Tony's about it for 6 months, okay, that's, you're
I
coming.
had friends opening restaurants.
Yeah, we're moving into recycling, we got it.
Yeah.
Oh. You know, we get these rules. Okay, we're closing the meeting, we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Now,
All attending.